Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to, as he scrolls all the way to the top, as this is the third time he's read it, John Travolta, JMels24, my anonymous donor, Unamento, Iron26, Eric Trosh, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising, 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to Gilded and G+, so you can enjoy the dulcet tones of whoever is in there while I set up for today's live show.
As your adjacent, right? That's going to be your adjacent. And that could be, if it's a 45-degree angle, that's 2,700 nautical miles. So why did it then take a real-world measurement, Neil? That's a real measurement, right, that actually works in reality, and then put it onto a universal transverse Mercator map, which distorts all the measurements that you just after making your circles of equal altitude, only to undistort it back to a globe. Whereas for a prototad, that first measurement is an arc. It has to be an arc. Even though they have to then, even though when they're pulled on it, they have to claim a tangent plane. But for them, that first measurement is an arc along the surface of a globe. That first measurement to create your circle of equal altitude. So they're claiming a curved
that's
radius.
Incorrect, though.
Well, yes, and they're claiming a curved radius.
There's so many things wrong with this, Brian. Yeah, the first measurement is not an arc prototad. The first measurement is a central angle, the equatorial plane, which is Brian's sea surface baseline. That's the first measurement. That's why what Brian is saying is they've taken that navigator with a sextant on the ocean surface, and they've put that to the center of the Earth and called that the equatorial plane and drew a semi-hemisphere above it and one below it to make you think you live on a globe. And what Brian is saying is prototad in his way starts with an arc. But when you go look at the Haversine, it starts with a central angle.
That's correct. It's the formula for it is angle theta, which is the central angle, is equal to d over r, where d is the distance on a sphere and r is the radius of that sphere.
Perfect. They have to assume r, number one, and it's central angle. And then prototad wants to hijack that and not give credit where credit's due, because that's the Earth's surface that they stuck in the middle of that dingleberry.
Well, if you think about what they've done, you're just commenting, Neil. If you think about what they've done, or what they do, they first of all ignore a real-world measurement, right, which is your radius of your circle of equal altitude. They ignore that and make that a curve, right? Make that an arc distance, instead of a horizontal distance, number one.
Can I pause you for a minute, Brian? Because you're making a good point. May I?
Okay.
Okay. What Brian just said, they ignore, I would say differently. He's right, but I would say they misplace. That's what Brian just said. They do from the equatorial plane. And we say, yeah, but that's the Earth's surface. So Brian's right when they ignore it, because they don't want to admit that that's the only thing we got to work with. And I'm trying to say they have to agree with it because of central angle and elevation angle, two straight lines, so it's the only way it works. But they misplace it and put it in the center. And this is where, Brian, I think you're going to go to, where now he wants to start with the arc.
But hold on real quick. But they have to do that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They have to lie.
Well, yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that they actually take a real world measurement, right, and make an arc distance out of something that is a real world measurement. They just, in the end, it's an arc distance on their globe. But
Right, but
what they
that's
do
what
is they
I'm
just,
giving you. But that's what
yeah,
I'm
but
giving you credit for.
yeah, but I don't think you're not leaving me get to the end of what I'm trying to say.
I apologize.
Right. They're starting out with a real world measurement, a horizontal real world measurement. They distort that, and then with the universal transverse Mercator map, then undistort it back onto a globe, whereas it doesn't go back onto a globe because it didn't start there. And then the way they do that is they use something that was never measured, which is their radius value. Outside of being measured on a horizontal plane via elevation, flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. Do you understand? So they're taking away one real world measurement. They're not adding in a measurement that never happened. There's no measurement for R. There never was, and there never can be. R is back calculated from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. I can prove that outright. Nobody can ever, anywhere, ever debunk that. I can debunk anyone.
Well, that's an obvious because of Polaris.
Yeah. But that's what they're doing. They're taking a real world measurement.
Yeah, now see, I like the way you're saying that, but I say it a little differently, but we're both saying the same thing. They're taking real world measurements, but they're misplacing it through imagery at the center of a globe and calling it the equatorial plane. And in reality, it's a real world measurement because we all live on the same plane we call Earth. And then they do all this other stuff by changing it over to get the arc. So the curved part of the protractor is they want people to believe that's where it's happening from. When they are limited to a real world measurement themselves, it's just that we say that's the surface we live on, and they say, no, that's the equatorial plane.
Deliberately.
It's the same thing we're saying, Brian. I'm just saying it a little differently.
Yeah, but their equatorial plane, you see, the same problem with their equatorial plane is they're using an equatorial plane, right? They first of all have to use a tangent plane, right, within their model, because they need a horizontal, right, that touches a circle at one point or their sphere at one point. And then once they do that, once they have that, they can then move the angle to the center of their globe. And what that changes is that the adjacent length of their elevation angle that was on the tangent plane changes, right? Because their adjacent length is then confined to being no more than 3,440 nautical miles. If you know what I mean, as an adjacent.
No, I get you. No, I get you. Now, see
and
what
they
you
try
just
and measure
said.
an adjacent over an arc.
See what
That's
you
what
just
they're trying
said.
to do.
What you just said there, I could say the other way, and we'd both be right, and we're both saying the same thing. I would say it. They're measuring from a flat Earth, and then they draw a circle around it and do a tangent plane on top of a curve.
This is deliberate deception.
Well,
we're saying the same thing, Brian. It's just one way of explaining it.
Say what you're saying again, because I didn't.
Okay, what I'm saying is all they have to work with is the irregular plane we live on. They say, but we need a globe. So they'll draw a circle around it. So they'll draw a circle around the equatorial plane, make a globe, or a circle in this case. And then they'll put the observer on top of the arc with a tangent plane and say sunlight's coming in parallel, so the angles are the same. We're saying the same thing. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, but that's not exactly. Well, it's similar to what I'm saying, but it's not exactly what I'm saying.
See, to me, they don't start with a tangent plane on the sphere because the sphere doesn't exist. They have to start with the Earth and the sextant at sea, and then they build after that the globe. And then they take that sea and make it the equatorial plane because that's where all the angles in the nautical almanac are deriving from, which is really the surface of the Earth.
But they start carving everything before it even gets to. They start carving everything before it even gets to parallel sun rays. That's just for shadows and stuff like they. The point,
no, I'm not highlighting
I'm not even
that.
talking about parallel sun rays.
No, I'm not we're going to go off the kilter. I'm just talking about the flat plane they have to use. Their flat plane is the equatorial plane. Our flat plane is the Earth. What they do is draw a circle around theirs and say we live
There was
on
some
the
feedback,
top.
Brian.
We don't have that circle.
Just mute if you're not talking. We'll go live in about 5 minutes, just so I'll let you go. I finally figured out what the problem was.
Okay.
Okay, Nathan. Yeah, but the point I'm making is when they move the angle, see, they have to start with a tangent plane to measure it. They need to measure the distance, they need the tangent plane. So they start off with the tangent plane to measure the angle. And when they move that angle to a central point, they're then confined to a position where they have an adjacent length of their angle that's confined to 3,440 nautical miles. Because you can't have any more from the center of their globe to the extremities of it. That's the maximum you can have.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So consequently, they're then measuring the adjacent along an arc above them. That's the joke of it. So when there is an adjacent length greater than 3,440 nautical miles, they make up for that by trying to put the angle at the center and measure the adjacent along an arc. The adjacent of a triangle, a right angle triangle, or elevation angle, which is the same thing, can't be a curve. You know what I mean?
No, yeah,
That's completely backward nonsense.
No, I know. I still think we're saying the same thing. I'm saying it a little differently, but I'm totally agreeing with you.
Yeah, that's where the hammer sign comes in, though. That's what angle theta is equal to the distance over a sphere divided by its radius.
Yeah, but the hammer sign does see. I'm going to share something with you in Skype there from Skype. Give me a second. One moment.
Whatever way you look at it, they're not using a curved surface, whatever they say, whether it's the equatorial plane, celestial horizon, a tangent line on top of a dangleberry. It's always a flat level baseline, and that's what they need. Can't demonstrate
Yeah,
it
because
any
they
other way.
can't have any.
Well, that's what I'm saying. One deck. They're stuck like we're stuck. They could only use one irregular plane called Earth that we live on, and there's sea level at 0, and anything above is above sea level. Anything below is below sea level. So there's your 0 line. All they've done is taken what we're stuck to and what they're stuck to, and say, how do we make a globe out of this flat plane that we live on? Oh, let's assume a central angle and a radius of 3959, and draw a circle around this tangent plane, which is their equatorial plane. Then we'll do another tangent plane on top of the sphere that we just created, and we'll have the same angle as if you were getting it from the center, because sunlight's coming in parallel, and that's where all the nautical almanacs say the angle originates from. Wait a minute, the guys on the boat on the curve, how's an angle achieved on the curve? Well, we're not getting it from there. Well, but you're on there, according to you. You're on the ball. Yeah, but we just take this foldable tangent plane and just put it wherever we want, like a disco ball with a little square that's flat. And then we get that central angle every time we hit it. No, you're on the flat plane, you idiot.
lying, deceitful bastards.
You see on the screen
I'm just asking.
this.
Yes,
Sorry,
we
mate.
do.
Sorry, one more day. Will I go ahead?
It's okay, Brad.
Do you want it? Will this be
Okay, thank
shorter
you.
than just? I'm about to go live, Brian. Is this going to be shorter than 2 minutes?
Yeah, I'll make it short. I'll make it shorter than 2 minutes. Okay, this green line would actually be the straightest distance on the surface of a globe, but they want you to think that the straightest distance on the surface of the globe is this yellow line. This is the Haber sign, right? This is the complete joke of it. The distance on the green line is 3,625 miles. The distance on the yellow line is 3,786 miles. So this is a hijacking of a real world measurement. See this airplane? Airplanes fly in straight lines. They do not fly in arcs. They do not do that. Now, there's other elements to that, right? That against the globe I can make. But if you straighten out this yellow line, what will it look like? What would that, if you straighten out that yellow line and everything around it has to just conform to it, it'll flatten out this globe and look more or less like a Gleason's map, more or less. That's the point I'm making. Like these distances that they're claiming here, this green line, that would be the distance you would fly over a globe. But they want you to believe it would be this arc distance here. No, it is not. That's the reality distance, and it isn't an arc. Airplanes do not fly in arcs. They do not follow latitude lines. That's a load of rubbish. So this is a complete hijacking of a real world straight line distance. Airplanes don't do this. Okay, I'm finished.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Paul, Brian's Logic, Neil, Refracted Curvature, another Brian's Logic, Adam Meakin, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded. So welcome one and all.
Hello, good
Hello.
afternoon.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Hey, Logic. Hey, Logic.
Hey Brian, hey Brian. Let's kick off. Let's do a properly concise housekeeping question, because even though my intro ran twice for some unknown reason, I'm hoping to iron out the glitches with this new computer, and in that sort of vein, I'm going to hopefully do a nice concise housekeeping question that we can rattle off in 10 minutes or less. Maybe. I don't want it to be turbo round, I just want it to be nice and concise. So any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth or Earth curve?
No.
Any evidence of Earth curve? Is that what you're asking, Nathan?
Yeah.
No, there can't be. The radius of the globe we are told we live on is a back engineering of flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. Nobody can ever debunk that, ever.
Well, in that case, is there any evidence of the R value, that be Earth radius?
Not from a
Well,
split.
didn't you just-
There's only evidence of a flat Earth elevation angle, a collection of flat Earth elevation angles that was back calculated to be the radius of a globe, Earth.
Didn't you?
But there is no
did you not
measurement of
just
all.
hear Brian when he answered the first question?
No, I did, but I've still got to ask the question because it's still a question that people assume in that regard, Neil. So I'm still going to ask for the evidence of the R value. I appreciate the answer. I'm notwithstanding Brian's answer that you can only acquire the R value by way of elevation angle measurements taken from a flat plane to Polaris. Is there any evidence of the R value? Happy, Neil?
Happy.
I think what Neil. But go on, Chocolate.
I was just doing a mic check. Morning, guys.
Morning, Chocolate.
Alright.
You know, your grip on reality is slipped when Craig, gravity is a force, McNeil, agrees with you. Oh, yeah. Okay. I've got to give that a bit of context, I suppose. So thank you very much for the super chat first of all, foremost. Chronicles of the, is it Unconvinced? Yeah, thank you very much first and foremost. Right, so Craig Fight the Flat Earth is agreeing with Jeranism in regards to scientific evidence not proving anything. So he made a comment in one of the videos, obviously public, so that's why this super chatter has recognised that, because it's out there with Craig agreeing with Jeran, saying, no, Jeran's right, science doesn't prove anything, followed by me replying going, you're an idiot, here's 10 citations showing how it proves things and why it proves things, etc., etc. So that's what that super chat's in regards to. So there we go. Thank you very much.
Not
That's
just
one-
Craig.
Hey, that's wonderful news. More contrast. Keep it coming.
Well, it's more the, I think I'll respond to Neil first. Yes, you're saying, Neil, that that's not the only person. Yeah, there's lots of globers who shockingly have also hijacked this notion, and as a result are agreeing with Jeran because their science didn't prove anything either.
Oh, you can say anything to what I said, or should I expound?
You go ahead.
This is what's important for people to take a position, a stand, and bet their show on it. Thank you, Jaron, for doing it. You have shown us what you are, what you believe, and you have all the right to do so. I'm not judging you. I'm just thankful that you finally made yourself clear.
We're going to get empirical proof. There's no empirical proof.
I know, it's ludicrous. There's not a lot we can do in this regard. We're dealing with people that have utilised a magic trick, and as a result, they're going to defend that use of that magic trick. So in that light, or in that vein, is there any scientific evidence of gravity?
As a conceptual background medium, is that the gravity you're asking about?
Conceptual background medium? No. My understanding, if you go beyond the 100 and whatever it is, 7-year out of date mass attracting mass, you've got a conceptual fourth dimensional space-time medium being bent.
But a fourth dimension isn't what we experience, so it would be described as background to the third dimension, wouldn't it?
Background to the third dimension? No. We experience length, breadth, and depth, that's space, or Euclidean dimensional space, that you can describe that way conceptually, but describe the actual physicality of it conceptually with our words. Semantics, though, it
But we're
is.
talking.
I'm talking. Hold on,
We're talking.
Go on, go on.
Well, we're talking about gravity, though. We're not talking about reality at this point.
I think what John is saying is that its fourth dimension will be non-manifest for us.
But
Right? Yeah, it wouldn't be.
I'm only working at the really is level, guys. I'm sorry.
But Bob has an explanation for it. It's called flat Earth gravity. It explains why things go down, why we're centered on the Earth. That's the explanation.
Now, you don't necessarily need to work at the really is level in this case.
Thanks, George. That's my homie, George Moose.
I mean, I do only want to really respond in regards to the really is level, though. I mean, as much as George Moose is very amusing, we're asking for scientific evidence of something, and that contextualizes it in physics, right? The physical. Well, if we're not dealing with the physical, then we're not talking about anything that we're concerned with here on Flat Earth Debate, are we?
Yes, you can't have any scientific evidence of gravity.
I mean, it is kind of funny, right? To have like these anti-flat earthers, whoever the hell they are, come and tell us all types of shit about gravity, but yet somebody who actually wrote for Scientific American will tell them that it's not a force. You could think of it like a force. It's not on the really is level. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. That checks out. Everything's okay. That works in our favor.
But
Like,
that's
what?
Wait, just 1 second.
But
I'm going to
chocolate-
shout out this super chatter after resetting my desk. So 5 seconds of silence, sorry. Okie dokie. Shout out to Sensual Goat. Well, great name. I recently applied for a job as a web scam girl. I'll be... Let's just read this before I read it out loud. Hold on. Okay. He says, I recently applied for a job as a web scam girl. I'll be cold calling flat earthers and selling them special Ethernet cables. Very good. Thank you very much for the super chat.
What Chocolate said about George Musser is, but we don't have to deal with what's on the really is level. Is that right, Chocolate?
You want the full quote?
We can
Yep. Yeah, I want it.
Hold on. I think somebody's going to play it from...
Yeah,
less
Croatia Bear can play it.
the force. That doesn't mean it really is, but now we don't necessarily need to work at the really is level in this case.
Go back to R. John, refractive curvature. If we put ether there, well, we don't really need to work on the really is level with it.
That would be my understanding as well, yes.
That's what he was trying to tell you earlier, Nathan.
Okay.
So as long as you can't observe it, it's real.
No. It's like
It's
the
what
current
they're
argument.
saying.
The current argument we're in terms of the Ethereum argument, is that we need to accept something that's non-manifest, which is in and of itself a contradiction in terms. Maybe, John, you explained this yesterday in a way that was much better than that.
Right, non-manifest means that it doesn't exist in physical reality, right? So they're telling us that it's not in our physical reality. And when we point out that it's not in our physical reality, they explain the things that it physically does in our reality.
That makes sense.
No, it doesn't. Except that unicorn farts are the background medium to everything. Why? Well, because it's, in existence, but yet non-manifest. You're never going to experience the unicorn farts. But now I'm going to argue all day, call you a scammer, and say science doesn't prove things on the basis that you won't accept my non-manifest unicorn farts as the background medium for everything. Now, just because I've replaced ether with as a background medium with unicorn farts doesn't alter the nonsense that it is.
I'll see your ether and raise space time.
I don't know if that's...
You can't bet the same thing twice.
I was about to say that's not a raise.
All right, so I'll see your ether and raise you ether. How's that work?
Hey, Brian, you here? Brian's Logic?
Yeah.
You had a talk with Whitson on this. He pretty much said you said it's pretty much like in the spiritual realm, not in the physical realm. And did he agree with you?
Well, yeah, he agreed that it was a spiritual belief, not something that you can show, as in the 3D reality. He said you can't show this in 3D reality. It's outside of our 3D. Like, he agreed to all that. Totally agreed,
Okay.
100% on his show. If he disagrees, then he'd have to show it, wouldn't he? I mean, but he agreed. His belief, it's purely a spiritual belief that he holds.
What do we assign to spiritual?
Well, God is the
Supernatural.
Is that what you're asking? Well, God, like, that was my
Well,
point. The whole thing.
I do, being a Christian, but others would say force, energy, non-sentient. But they would say that's God to them, the universe, be one with the universe. So
Hold on.
this is really,
Hold on.
yeah,
hold
I'm
on.
telling you, this is,
You're confusing two different things, right? So if you take thought and say that that's supernatural, you can still experience that and describe it as above natural, right? That makes sense. When you talk about God, in this context. You can't. You can use it as an explanation for the answer to the ontological primitives, but you can't necessarily say, well, it's reinserting God instead of Ethereum background medium or space time. You're just slipping it in as a substitute for a background medium. Whereas saying there must have been an outside influence on the creation of everything, because you can't create everything from nature, and there's only one or other option. It's either come from an outside force or it's created itself. Well, if those are your only options, that does leave you with an outside creator. But does that mean that you can assign that conclusion to some non-manifest background medium? No, definitely not.
I'm
Well,
not.
Thank you, Nathan.
Hang on. I'm not assigning it to that. I'm telling you this is where it's going to head. This is where it's going. Go ahead, John.
Well, Tent is
I
right
was going to
because
say,
if
you
you
ain't
don't put,
looking.
sorry.
I think John wants to reassert my point, so I'm going to let him go first.
I got Tent back. I'm
I
next.
thought 10th was looking for common ground with him, and Nathan just went along and stomped through that mud hole. But never mind.
Hey, I wasn't expecting a jab at 10th. I was hoping you'd reiterate whatever point you agreed with, which I don't
Okay,
know.
evidently he did it, so it's my turn.
Go ahead.
Tent is absolutely right because now I hear in chat that if we don't accept this ether, then we're atheists too. And we should just line up with the atheists because we don't believe in God. So they're
What?
putting this ether
Also,
with
God is ether now.
Oh,
Ether is
God.
God now.
No.
I'm
Wow.
telling you this.
No. Like I say, replacing God with unicorn farts or background mediums that are etheric or space-time, this is no difference. It doesn't alter that there must have been an outside influence to create what we call our known universe. The world and everything in it has to have been created because it couldn't have created itself. That doesn't mean that there's a background medium. It doesn't mean anything. It means that there is a creator.
No, you're still missing it. It's not what we are saying. It's what they are going to be saying and are saying.
I get it.
Some of them
They're
already.
saying if we don't accept ether, we don't accept God.
Yeah, to them it is God. That's all I'm saying. To some of them it is God. The rest of them will follow in suit.
Sure, but I'm sure they would argue that it's just a defense of the creation of the background medium, which God, therefore they'd link it to the ontological primitives and say because there was a God, he created the background medium that's non-manifest. That's all they'd do. They just kick the can down the road.
Sure. No, there are people who say that too. But then we would say it's not manifest and we're not sure if it's there, if we can't see it. But yeah, he could. I mean, it could, like we say, we're not against it. We just don't know how to prove it and it's non-manifest. So God certainly could have created something and it could be there. And I'm not against that. But I'm saying the majority of these people have substituted ether with the real God, the real creator.
And it's been going on for years, right, Tent? This new age nonsense. It didn't just start.
No, it's full circle. Look, I met people in the 70s and the 80s, but mainly in the 70s, late 70s, who were talking about this cosmic force, God, he's everywhere. The tree is God. I'm God. You're God. Everything is God. And it's very ethereal. And this is where this is going to end up. It's going to end up to there. Not every person will think that way about it. Some people will just think God made it, but we can't see it. Okay, fine. Got nothing against that.
Yeah, see these new age beliefs, they all come from a source that was hijacked. They're basically hijacking, let's just say, very old beliefs about spirituality, about God and the nature of our existence and whatever, the reason we exist, blah blah blah. Because the belief back in ancient times wasn't that God was the tree, but there was God, because God is responsible for the tree. That tree has its own, let's say, its own spirit, its own individual. What's the best? So not soul, but it has its own individual what's the best way to put it? You know when you have a favorite spoon. Why do you have a favorite spoon or favorite whatever? You could have 10 of something, but there's one is your favorite. Someone else will have a different favorite. You know, it's that kind of a thing. It's just like its own kind of personality or its own individuality or something like that, if you know what I mean. I'm probably not explaining it very well. But the point is that the spirit of God is in everything, right? Basically, that was the belief. But that doesn't mean that the tree is God, because that's just abject stupidity. You know, God is the creator of everything, not that he's God, not that the tree is God.
Brian.
The tree is God. Yeah, exactly. And the blade of grass is God. No, that's stupid. But a lot of these people just hijack stuff. Sorry, John, I cut in again. Sorry.
I don't know what you guys are talking about, man. There's no such thing as life, really. We're just a series of chemical reactions that got complex enough to become sentient. What are you guys talking about?
Well, thing in my world as life, really, that we're very complicated rocks.
It's my cousin Rocco you're talking about there.
Recreation better got my back, bro. I love it.
Right, let's move on because we've only asked half the science question. I said 10 minutes of concise housekeeping. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
No.
They can't.
They're not science. Next.
Yeah, John got the right answer. They're not science. They're not going to provide scientific evidence. They're pseudosciences. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
No
Any
distance.
attempt-
No distance, but in the high altitude balloon footage, we do see a hot spot moving on the surface of this irregular plane.
I do have a question
Any
about
attempt
that.
to prove a distance will require a flat plane, though, no matter if you're heliocentrist or not.
I do have a question about it all. If they do say that they'll use trigonometry to find these heights and distances. I mean, why isn't it? Why can't someone way over in one part of the world be able to actively on the phone talk to someone else and get an angle and do this math and all the nonsense that they take you down? Why don't they do that? I don't know. Maybe they have done it. I don't know. Maybe I'm ignorant to it. But where has this happened? Why hasn't it happened?
Measure to what, though? What are you asking about?
Neil, can you turn your camera off? Can you turn your camera off, Neil? It's really irritating. Thank you.
Measure to what? What's the thing you're talking about? People at different parts of the world measuring to? What height are you talking? What is it you're talking about?
So, like when they're measuring to a point in the sky, be it the moon, sun, whatever.
No, you can't do it. You can't determine the height of a celestial body, its actual height with angles. Can't be done. Because as soon as you change your position or the celestial body changes its position, then the height that you calculated is completely changes. Unless you know the height of that celestial body when it's at your 90 degrees, which is at your zenith. Unless you can measure it when it's straight above you. Sorry?
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, why can't we get okay, we're online. We have enough people spread across the land, each continent even probably. Why can't this be a real world experiment and once and for all show them
you're listening to what I said. Now, for a start, it's not an experiment. Second, you didn't listen to what I said.
Maybe I'm using the wrong word.
You can't measure the actual height to a celestial body with angles. It can't be done. Because as soon as that celestial body moves, your angle changes. So the height changes. So if I measure and you measure two different angles to the same celestial body right now, and then we take a measurement again in an hour's time, then the calculated height we get between those two angles at both times will be different. So one time it could give us a height of 2,500 miles into the sky, and another time it could give us a height of 3,400 miles. So we can never so it's all like what we'd have to do then is work in a position of make believe. You can't when you're measuring an angle, you're measuring perspective, and you can never measure the height to a celestial body using angles. It can't be done, because they're not something that's stationary that you can actually measure to. We don't even know what they are. So angular measurements this is something that the ballers put out years ago, telling flat earthers you should do this. But it's completely false, because what they want you to do is go and do it with your friends and then tell them Polaris is 4,000 miles in the sky or some rubbish like that. And then they'll debunk your flat earth model that you're after just handing them with your measurement that you didn't actually make. You think you made a measurement, you didn't. You can't measure the height to a celestial body with an angle. At 10,000 angles at the one time to the same celestial body won't work.
Unless you have the distance already. So in the same vein, if you're looking at a building in the distance, and you can obviously do the same thing, right? You're trying to just solve the triangle. You're trying to solve one side of the triangle. Well, if you've only got the angle to the building and you don't know the distance to it, you don't have the scale to know what the end height is. As the building moves further away from you, obviously the side that you'd be calculating for, which you can calculate, but you don't know the scale. So you don't know, you can ascribe a scale to it, but if you don't know the distance to the building, you'll never be able to calculate the height of the building just based on the angle. Now, it's no different with the stars. As it moves towards the horizon, it drops. Does that mean it's getting lower to the ground? Well, we don't know, is the honest answer. It might be.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the star is. So we can't just say it's getting closer to the ground, but if you calculate for that triangle, that side's going to get shorter. Ergo, it's closer to the ground? No. That is not how it works. So it's
that's a good point you brought up. But I'm just saying, because that's their constant argument. Constantly, they say that constantly.
Well,
they're like, well, what's the height? I mean, what's the height? You can use trigonometry. They proclaim, like, with absolute. They say you can calculate it if you use math. But I mean,
okay. Stop.
No,
Okay, I heard it the first time and the third time and the fifth time. Yes, they say you can calculate it. Right, well, that's what's called a burden of proof reversal fallacy. Their positive assertion is that they do know the distance to these items, isn't it? Now, we ask for the distance to the sun on an almost daily basis, but we aren't claiming we know it. So when they tell you can calculate it for your flat earth, what they're doing is forcing you into a position where you have a false dichotomy. You with your claimed height measurement and they with theirs. When in reality, number one, to get you into that false dichotomy, they've had to flip the burden and tell you that you can measure it. When in reality, it's their positive claim that they should be defending, because they do claim a distance. We do not. I do not. Let's rephrase that.
And when you're done with your house cleaning questions, I want to bring something up. If you want to save it for the after show, that's fine.
No.
I brought it up last
ask
night.
now. Feel free. What was your question? What did you want to ask?
Well, I asked Elijah earlier in regards to, has he ever, and I'll ask you as well, have you guys ever brought up, has it ever been a discussion about the Fermat Belt Tunnel? Has anybody ever spoke about that? Like, ever, in all the years of doing Flat Earth?
Anybody know that?
Well,
I don't.
The tunnel?
I don't know. There's been a lot of things brought up over the years, so I can't say for certain.
Is that the claimed straightest tunnel in the world?
It was a tunnel that was in Germany. It's submerged underwater, and they built it with a 15 millimeter precision, 217 meter pieces. There's 80 of them, and if you do like the calculations, like it should have, like, let's say 80 feet of drop in a curve, but they were built to where there's only a 3-foot difference. Now, the bigger part of it, the bigger argument that I would say is that this tunnel has nothing to do with the curve of an Earth, because the way that here, actually, I'll post it in the chat. The way they even have it like diagrammed, it's not even a round Earth at all, and at that distance, you should have this. There, I just posted it at 59 minutes after the hour. You see that it does go down, but it comes back up. But it would be like no different than you building a Hot Wheels track in your round swimming pool. Has nothing to do with the ball Earth. It has to do with what you're dealing with within your confines of space. So for 10.9 miles, it's completely flat, seabed level they call it, with a 15 millimeter precision. And I came across this yesterday morning, so I brought it up last night, and like the ballers are just like just so ridiculous. But anyways, I wanted to bring it up to you
Well,
guys
what
if
did
you
I
guys
say?
even like.
What did the
Is this,
ballers
am I
Well,
on the right
they're
link?
like,
Sorry,
yeah,
1 second, Neil. Am I on the right link? The
yeah,
Fernmarkenbelt Tunnel? Is that right?
yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, for posting it.
Yeah, and here's another picture of how. And then one argument was like, well, they made these pieces curved. I said, no, they didn't. They are an exact height from the front to the back, an exact height. No different than if you were building, like a house, and it has to be this elevation on one side, this elevation. Now, sure, within it, within the tunnels, there is account for slope because of drainage. Yes, that's a given. But the pieces themselves, they weren't made like that. They're not built with the curve. And these guys are just like scratching their heads right now, I guess. It was just an interesting discussion. I wanted to bring it up with you guys. And this is just another point to point out to them. Like, look they built this in Germany, and it's seabed level, meaning it's flat. They didn't curve, nothing of that, man. Like, it's just another way to shut them up, in my opinion. But maybe you could brush up and get all the facts and details, and then that way, you can just shut them down.
Thank
I'm
you very
just
much.
bringing it up.
Very interesting. First I've heard of that, but brilliant. Love it when people provide new stuff. Excellent. Thank you very much.
For sure,
Just out of curiosity, the guys that told you they just built it curved, did they know about it before you told them about it? Or did they?
No, they didn't.
No,
and
right?
And he didn't know after, because I asked him. I said, "Okay, fam. So you're telling him what it isn't, but you just told him also that you would look at the article in a second. So you don't really know anything, because you haven't even looked at what he's talking about."
Yeah, he just knows off the rip. Oh, well, I mean, it's curved because obviously the Earth is curved, so there's no way it could have been built straight, right?
Well, they weren't talking about celestial navigation.
It's like now, innit? All the anti-flat earthers in the globe, they've all got sextants and been sailing for years. All of a sudden,
Exactly my point. They never spoke about it until then.
I understand some of the flat earthers' affliction, and what you see. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry to use you as an example, but as Nathan is trying to tell you that they're trying to force you into a position where you're giving an answer that really you shouldn't be involved in. It forces you to come to a fallacious conclusion so that they can then say, but you didn't think about this, therefore you're wrong. And so this is what we were talking about yesterday, about the difference between stopping the begging the question fallacy from the gate and going into the fallacy, in which sometimes, just to prove a point, you can end up at a fallacious conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And they you know what? You're absolutely right, because they start in their bias without even reading the information. Because remember, Elijah, he was like, no, I doubt it that it's 15 millimeters per second. Like, no, it literally says it. Matter of fact, I posted the video for him. Like, no, watch the video. They tell you. But right away, you can see that bias. Like, he won't even accept that that's even an argument to be had, because it's almost like he's going to be destroyed, so he can't let it happen. He has to keep his
This
shield up,
morning,
so that
right?
way.
Wasn't it interesting how I was like, okay, let's not argue and talk about each other. Just go ahead and provide whatever document you'd like. That was the same thing I was doing last night when I was talking to Ruhith, when he was trying to get me to accept the vernacular of light. Snell's law says that light bends towards the denser medium. And I immediately asked him, I said, what do you mean? He said, here, I'll drop a diagram. He showed me a horizontal line in which there's a line that's representing a light ray that's going from the water up 90 degrees, and then it bends to a lesser degree. I wouldn't even say bend. I would say it just exits at a different angle. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're showing me. I wouldn't say it's bending. I would just explain it exactly as I see it right here. You have an angle of light and it changes angle. And he's like, so it's bent towards the denser medium. And I'm like, well, not in the sense that something would be like if I say something is bending, something that's not erect, something that's not strong, like it's bending towards the denser medium. I'm thinking that to mean like towards the ground where the denser medium is. But I'm like, in this diagram with the horizontal line, where the arrow, you have a straight line that changes angle, and then it's going to go straight up into the air away from the horizontal line. Never going to intersect. It's never going to bend. It's never going to go towards. It's just, that's its new direction of travel. And I'm like, if we both understand that, then go ahead and show me the diagram where the earth is curved. And he refused to do that. He said, no, I need you to understand what you're misunderstanding, that light bends towards the denser medium. He just wouldn't let it go. Of course, I brought up Andrew Thomas Young's paper, and I'm like, you guys don't even have a claim to prediction, like to a prediction for the black swan. He's like, sure we do. I'm like, no, because you don't use standard refraction, so you don't actually have anything. I was like, with the standard refraction, you have parameters. The black swan falls outside of those parameters. So he linked us to one of his, right, I know. So he linked, I was saying parameters before this. Anyway, so he linked me, he's like, you're just lying. And then he linked me to whatever calculator diagram thing with the thing with the slide that Walter Bislin also has. And there's a guy who looked at it, opened it, and he was like, wait a minute. You've been arguing with Eli all this time, and I use your program, and he's right. Like, the difference between the minimal value and the maximum value you can put is like very freaking small. So why are you saying no when I'm looking at your program, and yes, what he's saying is exactly what I'm able to do with your program? These guys are insane. I don't know. They're not having the conversation.
You just don't understand.
Yeah,
because that's what usually comes out. Well,
Well,
you just don't
liars,
understand.
liars calling you a liar. That's funny.
Well, isn't that like demonstrate the point they become an anti-flat earther when they can no longer claim why it's a ball, but all they can do is claim to know why it's not flat?
Was he able to refract the horizon in his little diagram? His little Walter Bislin diagram, little rubbish. Any mention of standard refraction?
I told him yes. All right.
Go on, you go ahead. Go on.
Well, I was just telling him the only way you do it is to change the hump, change the radius of the Earth, and he's like, that's not always true. I was like, okay, well, you just changed instead of saying it's the distance between the center of the Earth to the Earth, you just say it's the distance between the center of the Earth to the curved light ray, and then you just say, well, that's what we're talking about. That's effectively the same.
No, you were.
That's effectively the same thing.
No,
but I'm saying if you have a
no, it's not. You were correct when what you first said, and he hoodwinked you afterwards. It's a change in the physical radius of his physical globe. That's exactly what it is. It is not anything to do with temperature or air or anything else. It's an actual change. 7/6R is an actual physical change to the size of their physical globe.
That's basically what I said just now.
Yeah, but he
I
said
said so you're gonna imagine that the theoretical light
trying to
ray
tell you
is
something,
to
Ethan.
some yeah, but you're not listening to me saying I'm saying the same thing you're saying. Because my conclusion is what you're concluding.
It isn't. You're not listening to what he's saying. And maybe if it's coming from a different person. Adam, are you there? Brian's trying to communicate the fact that 7/6R, even if they describe it as being the light rays bending around through Earth's atmosphere, it's a change in the physical geometry. That's what 7/6R actually does.
Yeah, my point was when Ruhif said, no, it's not always like that. That was a total and utter lie. That is exactly what it is and all that it is. It's a physical geometric change, literally. Well, it's not physical because none of it is real. But if it was real, that's what it has to be. Because they're literally changing the size of their model. That's literally
what they're trying to.
It's not temperature or air or refraction. It's literally a change in the size of their model that they're hijacking, that they're claiming is refraction.
Okay. But what's illustrated is a diagram with a larger curve around the curve of the Earth. So that's what it's representing. The circle, the arc of the circle. Like all they did was put a line on top of that. What I'm saying is, nah, fam, basically that's the same thing. But like all you did was take one thing that's imaginary, put a line on top of that and say, look, here's the difference between this and that. And then I told him it was begging the question anyway. And then actually that's moving into another conversation where he told me to ask y'all if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles, then the horizon is no further than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height. He asked me, is that begging the question? And I said, no. It depends on how you're arguing. Was I correct in that or no?
Well, no, he's begging the question. If he's talking about
it is begging the question.
Ask him if his claim is begging the question, because isn't that his claim? That the Earth is a sphere?
That's what I'm saying. It depends on what.
Miles.
It depends on how you're arguing, I guess, right?
But he's trying to reverse that on you. That's why he wants you to ask that in here, and he's not coming in. What he wants us to say is that he probably wants us to say that it is begging the question, so then he can attack the black swan. Everything
but it's not begging the question. It depends on the argument, right?
It is begging the question, but it's modus tollens. That's how modus tollens
That's
works.
what I don't understand. I thought it is begging the question.
It is.
It's allowing their claim. So you allow their claim that the Earth is a sphere with a radius of said size. Given that you're allowing that part of their claim, then the consequence of allowing that act would be this, X or Y, yeah? That's all you're saying there. If you insist that the Earth is a ball of radius there, then the distance to the horizon would be this. You're not making the claim per se, you're just using their claim and validating it with other parameters.
Or allowing them to beg the question.
Right. No, but let's stop. There is no begging the question unless in argumentation that's what someone's doing. Me stating that if this is one way, then this would be the consequence of that. That's not begging the question, is it? Like, it's just me making a statement. Because if it's true, it's true.
No, because if they're begging the question, Eli, okay, and you're being kind and magnanimous in their begging of the question, which is if the Earth is a sphere, right? So it's not your claim. So you're not begging anything, but you are working within their claim and firming up some of the consequences, and in this case, of the geometry.
And it's kind of like a clue just in how they respond to that, right? Because if the consequence was validated, then they would have no problem with the premise. Right? So if every horizon distance measurement was 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, they would never have had a problem with saying, yes, the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles. That's their claim.
That'd be a proof, see then.
Exactly.
Right.
That would be the
See,
greatest proof.
it would still be an affirming the consequent, though.
That's
Even
what I
if they
told him.
did
No,
conform to that.
look, John. That's what I told him. I said, at best, what I think it actually is, if like as the conversation progressed, I said, okay, then it would be an affirmative consequence. Because even then, even if it matched, you still wouldn't know it was Earth curve. It could be the cause of something else.
Right.
So I was more
Yeah.
comfortable saying, because I wasn't begging the question. Because he's like, aren't you begging the question? And I said, no.
Isn't it
No, I've got
allowing
to
them to
disagree
beg the
there as well,
question?
guys. That's not right. It's not right.
Okay.
If you measure to the horizon, if the Earth is a sphere, yeah, then the consequent is that you will be able to measure the horizon. There will be a physical hill in the way. Now, you make an apologetics for, oh, it might not be this, it might not be that. It might not be. But there would still be a physical hill in the way that you could measure to. If the
Can I
Earth
jump in real
was
quick?
You can, but did everyone pick up on
sorry.
what Adam's saying? If you're claiming there's a physical hill in the way,
Yeah.
that's something that's always going to be in the way. If something's blocking your view of something ahead of your view, then that's physically in the way, and nothing will ever change that. If it's not, it isn't. Anyway, go ahead. How do you say your name?
Apocryphon.
Apocathon. Go ahead.
So just real quick, I this is why I was so intrigued when I came across this tunnel, which just out of nowhere popped up on my like suggested videos to watch on YouTube, and you guys are dealing with things on our ground, our sea level, right above water, per se, but this particular video, they're dealing with a level at the bottom, at the sea level, at the floor, if you will. So when they're saying that the ground that we're standing on is shaped according to the ball below us, but then you have a seabed that completely destroys that argument because they're not building it according to a circle ball core of an Earth. That's why I think I was so intrigued by it, because then it's like, this is better than trying to prove something on the horizon or whatnot, because that's, you're dealing with optics, you're dealing with all these weird, light bending, blah blah blah, refraction, blah blah blah. But when you're building something on the ocean floor and it's 10.9 miles straight across, they literally call it seabed level, to where there's no angles in it. It's just straight across. Like if I was to build a table and put a level on top of my table, it will be flat from the left side to the right side, no curves. This is why I think this was, to me, like way more like aha moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I have to rain on your parade, right? As a baller, if I was a baller, I'd tear that. I'd destroy that easy. I just say it's a cord through a cord line tunnel. The tunnel is just a cord line through a section of the sphere. It wouldn't matter to
A
me.
cord
That
line.
wouldn't
Well
do
then, hold on though. With that being said, I would say, first of all, you didn't even look into what all was being, the video of it being built.
It wouldn't matter to
The
me. It wouldn't matter to me. I just tell you it's a cord line. That's all I tell you.
No, I know. But but again though, that's just like a parrot just saying cord line. But what I'm saying though is that then you didn't look into the construction of it.
Hold on. Brian. I know he's missed the point, and I know he's just tried to attempt to get a rise out of you, so you've interrupted him. But just let him get to the end of this statement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you're just saying it's a cord line, but mathematically, you can't just say it's a cord line mathematically, because it goes beyond the maths that they love to present to us and love to say. So you can say that, but you're only going to shoot yourself in the foot, because if you're going to say it's a cord line, but then if it doesn't match up with your ball, then that's on you. That's not my fault. That's you, and you're actually
But
going to look
no,
like a
it
fool
will.
at that
It
point.
will match up with my ball. Will, and I'll show you how it does in the diagram. And like I can do, there's 1,000 of these things. You're focused on the wrong thing. For me to have my ball in the first place, I need to have a measured radius value for that ball, and then that ball has to then adhere to a specific size, and then everything must adhere to that visually.
That's my point.
And geometrically.
That's my
but
point.
there is no
And
measured
because it
radius.
doesn't line up with that, it raises red flags. That's the whole point of what I'm saying. You're right. They're saying that if there's a radius and it has a curve at this distance and it should be a drop of this amount geometrically or whatever, mathematically. Well, guess what? It doesn't. So now what? And it doesn't line up with your narrative.
Through my globe, the chord line. I can make a diagram to make it fit my globe. We've seen it. Like, I'm not saying. I'm not saying. Don't get me wrong. Give me a second. I'm not saying that what you're pointing out is not a proof that the Earth is not a globe, right? What I'm saying is that is not going to win you an argument. You'll go around in circles with one of our opposition.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying because you're right. You can always drive. You can always create a line within a circle and say, hey, but then logically, you're gonna have to be like, well, then where's this point that the round and the straight is going to create? Because there has to be this point, this maximum, if you will, to where the curve and your straight line, if you're going to bust up a circle, you're going to have a point where it comes to that. And this is, I get what you're saying. They can say that, but it holds no weight in the discussion. And I'll tell you why, because there's no point. It's seabed level. Bottom line, it's seabed level.
Yeah, but
anyone claiming the Earth's got a radius value, ask him how it was measured, and 10 pounds per piece of shit, it'll come back to an elevation angle with a flat baseline, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, because just like last night.
Listen.
What's his?
Listen to me a second.
I forgot his name, but he was talking about taking a measurement with an auto level, and you're 4 feet above the ground, and then your front and back side of what you can see is 10 feet to the circle, right? Somehow this height is 10 feet from this tangent line that's going to go from what you're marking and then directly back into the circle of what you stand on. And then I told him, well, then that makes zero sense, because in reality, at that point, you would still be 4 feet above the ground, not 10 feet above it. So I get what you're saying, but realistically, that doesn't fly at all.
Yeah, but
zero.
we're not. But we're talking about within the argument, because this is flat Earth debates, right? Now, I have seen other things about tunnels and different things throughout the years. And if I was going to talk about tunnels, I wouldn't talk about tunnels. I'd talk about submarines and how they operate, because that's a much better argument than tunnels, because they're covering a much greater distance. So I talk about how a submarine operates, how that traverses from A to B, and what it does, and how it does what it does, and how it has to do what it does, and airplanes, and how they have to do what they do, because you're talking about much greater distances. Whereas when it comes to something like what you're stating, you could show that to someone else, someone who isn't in this arena, someone who isn't a completely, let's just say, someone who hasn't gone slightly mad, a glober who hasn't gone slightly mad and is willing to just say anything. You could show that to someone like a family member or a friend.
Hold on. Guys, can you just let Brian make his point?
No, I'm sorry. I was laughing. I was agreeing with him. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. But you could show that to a family member or a friend or something, and yeah, they would say that's great. But when you show that to Ruhit, he's going to show you a diagram and all the maths about how it works out for a globe. Every bit of it, he's going to go down into detail if he has to. How that's just a chord line. Or he'll make a curve out of it. And it'll be your word against him within the arena. Because all they have to do is add or, and you allow them to add or in some way, shape or form. Either add or to the tunnel or add or to the surface that's above it. And then there's a 50-50, it's a 50-50 argument then. Or is the problem. Debunking of the or in any way you can.
So originally we asked, where'd you get your R value? Now we just laugh at Roofy and say, how's that geometric horizon working out for you, buddy? Because where do you think they get their R value to insert it by presupposition?
Exactly. And again, I hear what you're saying. When you're dealing with certain ballers, they have every excuse and answer for their, for the things that don't make any realistic reality sense. Like that's not what's happening in our real world. But I'm saying to
That's the
somebody that
globe
is
for
searching
you.
for somebody that's searching for the truth, perhaps maybe on the fence, maybe they're like, I heard about this flat Earth. When you point out things like this, hopefully that's getting the wheel spinning in their brain to realize, wait, that doesn't check out. And you're right, you can have Ruhiv come up and like, oh, that's a chord. But again, okay, if you're gonna take a line out of your ball, at what point at the ocean bed can I find this 45-degree angle that you've created? Like where's that point at? Where's
Maybe
this flat top going on in the underneath the ocean?
But see, they'll focus on the word level. See the word you used, sea level, seabed level. And they'll claim level is level with the center of their globe. It all
because
goes
they're
back
retarded.
to
I get
radius
it.
value.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're
That's what
retarded.
they're
I
going to
know.
say. So I'm not saying it's a bad
But
thing what you're saying. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying for them, it's not going to be any good because they're just going to go around in circles and keep coming back to a globe claim where there's an R value and everything is level with the center of the globe. When that is
Hold on,
not the definition of a level.
They can't do that anymore, though.
Yeah, exactly.
They can if you let them.
Well, they have eye level now that they're claiming is a flat plane to get their angle measurements from.
Yeah, but they're actually claiming two different levels now, John. The level that you would get like with a spirit level, like from a bubble sextant, and the level you would get with a water level are two different levels. That's what they're literally claiming at present. Level has two different meanings.
What are you guys talking about? Level is curved, bro. What you mean?
Yeah.
Globe map 2022, bro.
Hold on, no, because then you can't use your eye level to get an angle.
Right.
So that they're trying. They can't go there. They're stuck.
But they said a water level is level with the center of their globe, whereas a spirit level creates a horizontal. That's what they're at.
I just want a baller to realize that if I was to have ever gone in my career, my boss, and say I'm off on the measurement because I counted for curvature, he would have fucking fired me. He said, "You're a fucking idiot. Level is level. It has nothing to do with a bending of any sorts." And I just want to throw that out there to anyone that might not know that is ridiculous nonsense talk.
Until you're forced to have to defend your belief in a magical spinning water ball, all of a sudden reality changes. Level is curved, up is down. People are standing antipodal from you, thousands of miles beneath your feet. It's all crazy.
Level can't be curved because eye level's not curved. Hold on, eye level's not curved, is it?
No, it's not. But that's a different level from what the water level shows, which is level with the center of the globe.
Level's still in it.
Let me go into my
Level by
globe repertoire.
definition. Level by definition is that it's flat, completely flat. Like, okay, if I had one of my steel beams and I put it between two columns. Now I'm gonna put my spirit level on top, and I'm gonna say, hey, go up a dog, right? And he's gonna literally pound it up and then tighten the bolts because that made it level. That made it flat. And it's going to be flat according to the blueprints. We're supposed to be 12 foot 4 inches, right? If it's 12 foot 4 inches and a half, that's not level. Bottom line, from left to right, you have a flat level plane. That's it. It's easy.
Well, what John is trying to point out is that in a Glober's mind, there's
Like
a
I
difference
say, they don't know what a triangle is,
between.
mate. You haven't got a chance.
Just real quick, there's a difference between the horizontal line and the level surface.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. What'd you say?
I'm just saying that to John's point, they do make a difference between basically there's horizontal and then there's level with the surface of the earth. Two different things.
No. Hold on. With that being said, Elijah, they're also saying that men can have babies. So don't fuck with words on that point. Let's talk about reality. Fuck the bullshit. What they want to say. Oh, level is curved. No. They're also saying that males can have babies. That's bullshit. But let's stick with reality. We know that level is flat and men can't have babies. Now, if you want to go beyond that, and there's a whole nother philosophical argument, go on, fucking have at it. But I'm just saying, sticking with
stop
reality
swearing.
and facts, level is flat. Bottom line. Don't
Yeah,
talk about a
just one
fucking
second.
ball
Please stop
curving.
swearing.
Sorry, this is the live show. Please don't swear on the live show. Too many swearers on
My bad. You're right. My bad.
And
And
there's
if you
certain
could
topics
stay
we
away
can't,
from
and
the
there's
other.
certain topics we can't talk about either. Things like men having babies, we can't talk about those.
Right. Yeah. You're missing
Which is
what
wild. Yeah, but I mean, just to prove my point,
It
we're
is a
dealing
good
with some stupid
juxtaposition, though,
explanations.
of
One sec. Just wait for your reply.
It is.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, no. I'm not saying that. Go on, Nathan.
Well, that was a proper conversation killer.
No, because I didn't know what you were expecting me to say. I'd already said that there's certain topics we can't talk about.
Go on, John.
Yeah, I think
Talk
you
about
wanted
it.
to
Go on, John. I'm waiting for that cliffhanger so I can round out the live show. I'm not going to get it, am I?
I'm going to keep it going now. You should have never told me that. You should have never told me that. I'm going to keep this going for days. But we just have to watch what we talk about. There's magic tricks that are being cast as we speak, and if you interfere with those, they will shut you up.
Very
So
well said.
some things we can't talk about.
Right, very well said. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashers super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Modus
think we got
tollens,
fired
it's not
now.
a begging the question, it's a conditional statement. That's what I said.
A tacit acceptance. Right. That's what I was trying to get to, but it never.
If
I said
it depends on what you're saying. The person has to formulate it into the argument of begging the question. That's when it's a begging the question, not just within the conditional statement.
Within the modus tollens, it's just the conditional statement. The conditional premise is the if-then statement, so it's not begging a question.
And
You can't have a
looking
fallacy.
forward to the debate between Brian Leakey and Sean Hawkins?
Hold on, let's just summarise this modus tollens, whether or not it's begging the question. I just want that to be concise. Go ahead. Can you say it one more time, please, QE? Thank you.
Yeah, the first statement, it's a premise. It's a conditional statement. The if-then statement. That's it. It's not a begging the question fallacy. It's just a conditional statement. Good.
I think I made that clear.
I just heard people arguing it, and then I didn't. I went somewhere else. So I don't know if you guys resolved it or not. If you did, good. I just wanted to make sure. Good. We can move on.
That was devoid of the nice word conditional statement. It was explained as such, but not described as such. So, yeah, much more
Who
succinct.
brought that? Yeah, I know who brought that up. It was that numpty dipshit, friggin' but the numpty from down under, right? Yeah.
Roofie?
Yeah. He said. Is that who challenged you? Yes. No. Is anyone out there?
By
Yeah,
proxy, it what?
they're
By
only
proxy,
having
it
fun
was
if
the
they're
president
rumpusing.
challenge.
I didn't hear any of that.
Me neither.
It was challenged by proxy through someone else, but Ruhiff was the originator of that. Yes.
Yeah. He's been going around asking that for years. He's a pure dumbass. He also called Modus Pollens, or Modus Pollens. He also called, I just woke up. He also called him Modus Ponens and affirming the consequent. Go to that numpty clip, the numpty from down under. He states it a couple times. He's a pure knuckle dragger, certified window worker.
That's for
Maybe he
botany,
meant
John.
affirming the consequence.
Say again,
Okay.
Adam.
I said that's for botany. Modus
that
pollens.
English?
Yeah, modus pollens. If you're doing
Oh, modus
botanical questions.
Sorry about that.
I didn't even get a sigh from 10th. Where is he? That's why he's not there. That's why.
Remember back in the day when the Earth being a sphere of a radius of 3959 miles was a claim they made? All of a sudden, it's begging the question, it's straw man, it's all types of shit that's not supposed to be. I thought it was your claim, Globers. It should just be like yes when we say that phrase. Why is it no? That's a straw man, or is that begging the question? All this nonsense that you're doing just shows that you have no argument for it. Because if it was that, it would just be that, and we wouldn't have to talk about that. Clowns.
Well, don't we just accept if they say that's begging the question? Go fine, thanks.
Yes, exactly.
Ballers say
That's
anything
what-
these days. In my chat this morning, they were saying that the Haversine formula wasn't actually calculated based on the flat plane. It was only there to help calculate geodesics. There were like 3 ballers in my chat all chanting that.
Well, that's kind of true. It's only there to change the flat plane into a sphere. It's geodesics, right?
If you gave an order that Santiago wasn't to be touched, follow?
I don't know why it makes me laugh. That's the greatest analogy I think in the world.
What?
It is interesting how as every year that goes by, even being here, on Discord on these servers, every year that goes by, the argument seems to change. It seems to change. It's almost like they're adapting to the punches being thrown to them. They're learning how to roll with them, and they're furthering the distance that we're punching, like that's AKA moving the goalpost. Like it's just really interesting the way way it works out, because at the end of the day, like we are not where we are today, where we
Told us
were
liars,
5
man.
years ago. In the argument,
Yeah,
like it has really changed.
yeah, a lot of that's happening. Moving the goalpost, repositioning. Yeah, it's annoying when liars do that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
That just proves it's not scientifically validated.
Well, yeah, that's
back in the
actually a
day-
good point. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, remember back in the day when flat earthers were called science deniers? Because we were told we got all this science that proves the globe, guys. What's wrong with you guys? What do you want to take us back to the Stone Age, cavemen? Because we had all this science. Fast forward 5 years. Science doesn't prove anything. Coming from the same guys that told us we got all the science from the globe.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't prove anything. Oh, okay.
So if you can change if you can change the goalpost, then it's not scientifically validated or proven. So they're all just liars, mate.
Science doesn't prove anything.
I have an update. Science doesn't prove anything, but it does disprove and prove the globe.
Yeah, it checks out.
Because people will say, well, let's just use this pseudoscience to disprove it. I'm like, why? Like, why?
But it's all wrong.
You know, if science
all
doesn't
wrong.
prove anything, there's no such thing as pseudoscience. Right?
Yeah, but it's all.
Wait. Let me.
For the ether.
It's all wrong.
It doesn't prove anything except for ether.
Scientifically prove
all
that science
wrong.
doesn't scientifically prove
You're
things.
all wrong. I have to say, you're all wrong. Right. The only way I can get my words in. Right. The shape of the world, or whatever the world is, if it has a shape or aspect, that has nothing to do with science. That's a geometric situation, not a science situation. That's a what is, not a cause and effect. So when they say, anyone that says science proves the globe, first straight away means they don't know anything about science. Because if they did, they wouldn't be saying something stupid.
Another thing to add to what you're saying, like this whole science doesn't prove things, science proves things. Like that's like, I don't like the way that's worded.
No, because
the scientific method, exactly. Scientific method is used for validating or invalidating your statement about if this, then that phenomena. That's literally it. It's not science
but
proves,
in their
science
argument,
doesn't. No, that's what I'm saying. Like people say, yeah, but in their argument, and then go ahead to follow their inaccurate statements with more inaccurate statements. It's like, no, it's an inaccurate
agree,
statement to
but that's
begin
what
with.
we're dealing with. No, I agree, but that's what we're dealing with. So, like in their argument, they would say, like, yeah, but the mapping of the stars proves a globe Earth, and the science that they use, even though it's not science, the science they use they can see the distances and they know the positions, and this proves the globe. So this is what we're dealing with. This is the nonsense we're dealing with, because they're not even
They're
that's not
just
even
chatting
science at that
shit.
point. Sorry, I didn't hear
Hey,
you.
you
You're
guys
breaking up.
want to hear a text? Hey,
We
You
heard
guys
you on
wanna hear
deck.
a
We heard
text?
you. Go ahead, QE.
yeah, I got a text yesterday from my daughter at university. She says, "Hey, Dad, we talked about the independent and dependent variable today in class. I was so confident in my knowledge in it because of what you taught me. It reminded me of you."
Think
Ah, that's
absolute
about
shit,
awesome.
man.
Nice. Excellent.
Didn't they call you independent variable, John?
Wait a minute, but didn't you pioneer this conversation? So now they're at university talking about what you've discovered? Oh, that's amazing.
No need, Eli. No need. That's really sweet. It's I, as a person who has also learnt this from Quantum Eraser, can echo that sentiment and say how very sweet that somebody appreciates that what you've taught them is right and correct and serves them very well when it comes to being taught or regurgitating the academia explanation for cause and effect relationships based on a hypothesis. Yes, nice.
I think
Very nice.
Eli's making the point that John's daughter must have been exceptionally proud when she sat in a lesson to hear the version of the scientific method that her dad formulated, according to the ballers.
We all got the joke. That's the third time. You've got a presentation up, Adam.
Move on. It was only a point earlier. I had a little flashback. I was driving earlier when somebody in Gilded was chatting about tunnels. It reminded me, I remember being a kid watching Blue Peter, Nathan, when the Channel Tunnel was being built. And there was a little clip that was always kind of stuck in my head, and it bugged me at the time, and I didn't know why, because I believed in the ball. But if you see here, you've got the two tunnels, and this is the two tunnels being dug, one from the French side and one from the English side. And the skill was to make sure that the two giant super boring machines met each other. As you can see here, look, it's just kind of cutting in. And this is how they made sure that the tunnels met each other. I remember this detail. So they got down to the correct depth for the tunnel on both sides, lined everything up, and then set a laser light so they continue at the same level underneath the seabed by following a laser light, and the two laser lights meet in the middle and the two tunnels meet. Two straight lines set by a laser meeting to make one straight line from a flat baseline. It's an impossible point of meeting. If the 2 points did meet, the angle would be, God knows, about 9 degrees, wouldn't it? In the middle, 1.8 degrees or something like that, because it's 20 miles, isn't it? So you wouldn't get the two laser lines meeting, because if one started out flat in the UK and went straight in a straight line followed by the laser, and the same on the French side, the points would form an apex in the middle where they met. They wouldn't be straight. And they also wouldn't conform to the seabed if they were following a laser line, remember, because you stay in the same depth below the sea following a straight line whilst the seabed falls away beneath you still. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it'd have to be an apex. It would have to be an apex. That's the only way it could be, because they're starting at two different positions.
Yeah. If you see on screen here, look, there's the laser light that the super boring machines followed. That's what kept them straight, horizontal, perpendicular underneath the seabed, and so that they both met on the same straight line, so the track continued straight.
Is there any refraction in that tunnel?
Well, that'll be the other point, wouldn't it? You're below sea level. Sea level's your R, so your R value would be different as well, based on your depth, wouldn't it?
But you're saying
Wait a
sea
minute.
level. Hold on. The level thing comes in as a problem again, right? Because how can a laser level, does a laser level follow eye level, or the nonsense that somebody asserted that level is curving? So is it horizontal? Like, what do they say to that?
Can I introduce something to you guys real quick? In the chat, 47 minutes after the hour, I did the math, and this is what their ball Earth represent on the first picture. But this is what the diagram when they built it represented on the second picture. It has nothing to do with the curved Earth at all. It's not even something that even obviously went into the thought of when they were building it. We're just trying to build it across distance. Clearly, they didn't even account for curvature because they even had to go down and back up. But can you see the distances in that round Earth model? How it does not equate by one iota. Completely different. And this is my argument right now at this point that I just discovered yesterday when I was suggesting this video. So I don't know.
Because we live on a flat Earth.
Let me know if I'm wrong.
Are you the guy that I told? Because I told somebody earlier, I said, you know, a lot of people like to talk about a lot of other things, but somebody asked me, they said, you know, how did they come up with this stuff? Like, I want to know how to work my way backwards from today until right before it was turned into a globe. I said, well, I don't know about anywhere else, but FED talks about that all the time. Won't you come on by? Are you that guy?
No, Elijah. Matter of fact, I've actually known you for a long time, but we've talked on other servers, other arenas, but it's okay. But no, I'm not
My
that
bad.
guy.
Okay.
But we were just talking this morning because I was with over in Earth Awakenings with you. We
And
were talking
Geos,
with
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
yeah. We were there. That's where I'm at. But I'm just saying, like, look at this picture. Like, it is nothing at all. Zero, bro. Look at the dip of the earth on the left and right on the first picture, but yet look at the construction of it. So you're telling me they're going in, like they're into the earth at this point? But look at how the left side and the right side of them building it have nothing to do with a dip of an dude. Come on, man. This is just one of those things where I don't know. Maybe
Like I say,
once
like
the wolves pull from your eyes, you can see it easier.
if they are claiming a radius of a globe, then ask them how it was measured, and I'll bet my bottom dollar will come down to an elevation angle with a flat baseline.
I'm not gonna say you're wrong about that because they'll say the most craziest things at this point to justify their nonsensical, explanations. But hey, it is what it is at this point. I feel like I want to speak to those who, for instance, baller, like we were all ballers at one point, maybe, perhaps that's maybe an assumption, but I would assume that we were all under this belief until we broke free from it. Until we
I
started
was never a
realizing the
baller.
nonsense. Was that?
I was a normie. I was never a baller.
Okay. That's fair to say. Yeah, you just believed whatever the school books taught you, but you didn't truly believe in it. You just answered the test and you just studied and you took it. I get it. I get what you're saying. I totally understand.
Hey mate, what changed your mind, by the way?
Again, there was a part in my life when I set out to prove a flat earther wrong, and I ended up realizing, holy fuck, was I wrong? That's a funny story.
What proof did it for you?
The distances. I know that there's a lot of argument about refraction and this and that, but the bottom line that if you want to say that I can line of sight bring something from beyond a ball physical barrier and bring it into my horizontal view, that is Narnia living. I'm sorry to say, whoever you are, if you ever believe that, like, no, that is nonsensical in the world of logic. So there was a point that it just came like, okay, I know a lot of ballers say this too. Oh, we see too far, but you don't understand refraction. You don't understand light, the way it works and properties, blah blah blah. Like, no, you're that's somebody stuck in the brainwashing, in the indoctrination, and they can't pull out of it. Because I'll tell you what, once you're pulled out of it, it's like light bulb turns on and it's as clear as day that makes zero sense. Even in the science and the breakdown of it, there's still this, illogical explanation going on, and you either have to believe it or you don't. And I would rather, on the latter per se. So
Yeah.
Going back to what I was saying though, if you have all these things presented to you, and if you're blinded, if you're still a baller, quote unquote, and you're blinded, sometimes I realize that I'm talking to a wall because nothing I can say is going to change their mind into seeing the way.
Mate, they don't know what a triangle is. They don't know what an angle
Exactly.
is. They don't know what two straight lines are.
Exactly. Because there's this brainwashing that's telling them that two straight lines can somehow be two curved lines. And those two curved lines are level to one another in their curved, position. But they're missing the point of horizontal, flat,
You might as well
level
go to your local
by the
mental. You might
original
as well go to
definition.
you go to your local mental institution and talk to someone with mental health problems, because you'll get more sense out of them, mate.
Well, what they do instead of actually trying to figure out what you mean instead of learning what you've learned. Instead, they'd rather unlearn what they already knew in order to defend their position. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
Even like what's a straight line will be suddenly a mystery to them.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's where it's as I said earlier, how it's crazy how over the years
What it is,
the
mate,
argument has changed.
their common sense has been hijacked. The common sense has been hijacked.
Yeah,
Take them off of
exactly.
it.
Over the years, for someone to once believe, because guess what? We were all ballers before, or we might have been normies, whatever whatever you want to call it. But we all didn't, maybe once upon a time, didn't believe or see the truth, and we were under that indoctrination, if you will. Now we learned that lines are straight, even in geometry, even we learned that lines are straight. There's a horizontal line is straight, A to B, right? The quickest way to to a place is between two destinations, A to B, straight. So we learned that, but then somewhere along the line we learned that lines are straight is curved, and I think in that twisting of it, that's where we find ourselves today. They had to twist their story, because then when the questions started coming out, well, wait, what about
Excuse me,
this?
mate. Excuse me, mate. A straight line is not curved.
But
Yeah,
this is all anti-flat earther talk, though. This is what they came up with themselves because this is not taught in schools or in the main narrative. So
exactly. Yeah, they
We're
don't
talking
teach that
to
in school.
psychopaths. You're talking to psychopaths.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're gonna tell you that a straight line is curved. Like, no, bro, a straight line is straight.
That's great. That's great. Just let me say one thing. That you've got a choice then to believe that or take it on board. Obviously, you're not going to do that. So, I mean, it's pathetic. So, you've got to move on from that.
Well, I just want to point out this, that if you have an understanding that you have been taught something, and if it's just going to fit a narrative, like a narrative, then of course you're going to believe what is being said by, let's say, someone like a Zanuck, because he's only going to further push you towards that indoctrination of, like, solidifying it, if you will. He's only solidifying the argument and pointing it out, and him alike.
He's a liar. He lies, mate. He tells lies. You don't listen to
Exactly.
lies.
No, you're right. You're right. He's saying lies. He's telling you that with your own eyes. In other words, he's peeing on you and he's telling you it's raining. That's what he's doing. And they're telling you what you see with your eyes is not what you see with your eyes. And that's the point where they get you. And those that are still stuck in it are going to stay stuck in it until it's their time to come out of it. I don't know when. I don't know. But I know that all of us, it took me I was 37 years old when it finally clicked. I'm 43 now. So maybe some will learn it earlier, maybe some will learn it later, but eventually those that are meant to know the truth and to understand it, to grasp it, and to carry that torch with it, it's going to come to them. Now, maybe some will never know that. Maybe there's some people in this arena that will never see it to be the truth. They will never understand it. They'll never believe it. They will never accept it. But somewhere down the road, some people take longer than others for them to come to that point where an epiphany goes off. Like, poof! Oh my God, these guys were right all the time. Like, this started to make sense. The crazy thing about it is that once you pull that wool from your eyes, man, that spirit of discernment is sharp. You can see the light. You can see the nonsense in their explanations, in their stories, in their, they NASA wants to put that they just crashed this thing into an asteroid, and they targeted it. Yet there's a lot of questions about that, by the way, but you start to see it, like your little, like, your red flags start going off. Like, I don't know, it's just not checking out. But anyways, maybe that's another story.
Well, to tell you the truth, mate, there's not a lot of questions about that because space doesn't exist.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up for me. What'd you say?
I'm saying there's not a lot of questions to ask about the blank asteroid story because there is no space. Space doesn't exist. There's no questions about it. It was a lie.
No, I know.
Outer space doesn't exist.
Yeah. There's the heavens exist,
So there's
right?
no
The heavens,
questions to
right?
ask.
The
There's no
sky
questions to
exists.
ask. Excuse me, mate. There's no questions to ask. It was a lie.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I get you. I totally understand what you're saying. I'm just saying like that, but I'm speaking in when you're dealing with ballers, you're dealing with them, and they have like, oh, my dad works at NASA, and he was a part of that program, and he was right there. He's on TV. You know, he was doing the countdown of the impact, or actually it was a female, I think. She was the one. My mom was doing the countdown to the impact. Like they get so stuck in the story, the falsehood, that of course it's going to give birth to a whole
Anyway, mate,
generation
listen.
of people that are
I
like,
know what you're saying, but listen, I know what you're saying, but don't let it bother you. You know the truth. With the truth.
yeah, true enough.
Right.
That's true.
And the implications of it being flat is what they're actually fighting against, because what's that mean for their relative that's told them this amazing story? You know, like then they got to start thinking about other things. So I think that's really what they're having problems with, is they're emotionally vested in these things. And if they turn out not to be true, then they got to look at other stuff that they don't want to think about.
Zanuck told the story about
sorry. Go on, Eli.
Zanuck told the story about I think it was his uncle being the head of the Pioneer Project, and he was like, I was there at NASA. I saw them doing stuff on the screens.
Exactly.
And then
My point
Rakia
exactly.
asked him how. And then Rakia asked, "How old were you?" He said, 8 years old. Fam, everything is amazing when you're 8 years old. Like you saw a screen and somebody was like, "Yeah, that's in space," and you were like, "Yeah." Like, okay,
Bro.
Exactly.
No,
Hey,
that-
Eli,
none of that happened.
Eli, I told my
No.
mum and dad when I was about 7 years old that I'd seen Father Christmas peep round the door and leave some presents.
Yeah,
Dude,
No,
when
Santa
I was
Claus.
a little
none
kid,
of that happened. Zanuck never. None of that happened. That's no. Zanuck, it wasn't anywhere. None of that happened. No, that's a total lie.
Have
Zanuck
you guys?
is a liar.
Hey, have you guys ever saw?
Le-
Have you guys ever saw that show Hannah?
ew.
Okay, so it sounds like
I
nobody
think I
has.
have.
So there's a show called Hannah, and they literally train them since babies to be like killers for the U.S. government, and then they wanted to put them into like like the real world, like to just kind of just like be able to mingle with people and live a regular life, and they gave them an entire fake life, like stories and their growing ups and what the things they've been through, so that way they can relate to like a normal person. Well, that's Zanuck for you. Every story he tells you, it's given to him, bro. Like he's a fake, he's a fraud, bro. He's been given this lively these stories that he has to impress people that he's actually done something in life.
I
Definitely
wouldn't
a shit.
Zanuck told me that he
even
works.
talk about it, mate.
Zanuck told me that he works with a vacuum levels that are several times the magnitude greater than NASA's Sandusky, Ohio vacuum chamber. That is 10 to the minus 6 torr. Zanuck told me he works with 10 to the minus 10 torr. Zanuck will just say anything. That's why I don't go on to Discord and that.
I just told you he has stories.
Isn't he also a race car driver and a pilot and what else?
Yes.
Like,
What I
are
tell
you
you? I told you. I
He's
told you
everything.
he has stories, but he's given these stories. Okay, I just did it the other night, like 2 nights ago, and he was reading. I swear to you, I put that in everything. I even called him out. I'm like, dude, I know you're reading a script. I could hear it. You can hear when someone's reading a paragraph or just speaking, just like commonly, like me right now, just talking to you. I'm not reading a paper, but you can tell when someone's reading something. And then he said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." So then, like 5 minutes go by, and then he starts blah 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 blah. Someone interrupts him. Guess what? He repeats, like almost like he reread the paragraph. And I was like, "Oh my god, dude, this guy is so exposed right now, bro. Like he is."
Here's what you do with Xanax. Next time you talk to him, ask him if he's still going to science forums to find arguments to bring up against us. Ask him that.
That's
Ask
a
him
good
how's
one.
that going.
Wasn't he an entropist?
You know what I used to ask him,
What?
like on DMs? I'd be like, "Hey, how's the weather in Langley, bro?" He used to
Wasn't
always
he an
fuck with him like
entropist?
that.
An
What was
entropist,
that?
yes. Xanax claimed
What'd you
he
say?
was an entropist because he knew
Wow.
more about the second law. Here, put it this way: he knows more about entropy than anybody else, but he didn't know that entropy is the second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, he's full of man. He's one of them plants, bro. Like he's one of them plants for reals. Him and there's others too. There's others in the Discord. Definitely. These guys are
No, I
getting.
don't
They
think he's
have to be getting paid for it.
I don't think he's a plant. I think he is it.
Or
But what I'm picking up off of all, well, sorry, very quickly. What I was trying to say earlier. What I'm picking up from all this is that someone's mammy told him that it's a globe. That's globe proof at present, right? My mammy told me it's a globe. That's what it seems to be.
And for some people, that's enough. Because that's moms.
Yeah.
Mom's told me
Yeah.
something, and I'm rocking with it. Like and
Well,
for some,
yeah,
that's enough.
because mom
For
don't
those
lie to
people,
me.
you need to
But
leave
then
them
you
be.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
yo, what Xanax did yesterday, like, and I do think it's like that. Like, I know you said no, he's lying about the whole space thing, but it's like, but it's believable if you think somebody is suckered. Like, it would take that level of deception and emotional attachment from the past to be this cognitively dissonant today. But like,
yeah, you're right.
dang, I'm mad that I went through that because I forgot what I was actually going to bring up that Xanax said about the mini things.
Yeah, but
Remember, he lived
it's
off the
like you
coast
said.
of Texas, and he saw oil rigs there. Remember that? He used to work on the oil rigs.
Bro, I'm telling you,
I don't
bro.
know.
He has every
He
story
probably
Off the
built
coast
the
of
rigs.
Texas.
He probably built the oil
Anyway.
rigs all from the Black Swan. He probably built them, designed them, and
Yeah,
shit,
exactly. He's like, I built the oil rigs. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's a joke, man. He's a character, man. He's a plant. That's why I say he's a plant, man, because he has every. One time they're talking about pilot. He's like, I'm a pilot. I've flown before. I have my license. Like,
That's
bro,
not
you've done
necessarily a
everything.
plant, though. That's just an indication that he likes to LARP. He just likes to bluff what he can do and prepare himself with
Perhaps.
scripts. That's LARPing.
Yeah, perhaps.
So
Yeah,
every
you're right.
once
You're
in
right
a
about
while, I like to bring normies into what I'm talking about, right? So I had a dude that just started at my job 2 days ago. So like 10 minutes ago, while you guys were talking, I asked him because I heard him say the other day we were talking. He said I build buildings and pour concrete and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, very interesting. So 10 minutes ago, I asked him. I was like, let me just ask you a real random, off the cuff question, right? Is level horizontal? And he just looks at me and said, yeah. And I was like, so is level curved? And he just looked at me like I had 3 heads. He's like, why the hell would you, what do you say? Why are you asking me that? And I was like, because there's a certain faction of people who will swear up and down that level and curved is the same thing. And he said, that sounds insane. I mean, like, and he started going into it. That was his job. He went into, you got vertical, you got horizontal, they're perpendicular, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah. That all checks out for me. There's a certain group of people that tell you that you're crazy for thinking that. And he was flabbergasted. He didn't know what to say. And he says, well, you mean like certain people that have like a belief? And I said, yes, indeed. And he thought that what I was talking about, because he said it first. He said, you mean like, like a flat earth thing. And I said, funny thing about that, it's the people that think they live on a globe who are the ones telling me that. And he looked at me and walked away. He was like shaking his head like, nah, people ain't saying that. I was like, bro, I'm on a show right now talking about how people tell us this shit all the time. I've been told this for 7 years. He said, 7 years? People telling you level is curved for 7 years. Yes. He's like, nah, bro, I'm good. I build buildings. you would be fired immediately. You wouldn't even be considered for the job saying some shit like that in reality.
Ooh, you got to him hard.
It's like we've all gone through these phases, like talking to these absolute idiots, and got involved with these arguments. And you're arguing about things that you know are absolutely insane. I can't do it anymore. As soon as you say a straight line is curved, I just end the conversation there. You can't go any further with that conversation.
Yeah, it's not a conversation.
You can't go any further with that. You might as well be talking to a 2-year-old baby.
Well, it gets even better when they say it's straight line but curved at the same time, like a Kumu virus, remember?
Oh, you can't tell
straight
the
line
difference.
aside, but the light is bent. He still holds on to that.
Well, some of them will say you can't tell the difference between a horizontal plane and a curved line. Like that. I mean, they're literally different things. How do you not tell the difference? Like what?
I have been told in recent times.
Yeah, but I've done it. I've actually done it when I've been in these conversations, and they say these absolutely like insane things, and you actually start thinking about it as if you think, why am I actually thinking about this? Could be real because it's impossible. It's pathetic. It's psychopathic. Just end it there. See what they're doing? They're trying to draw the energy out of you, all the common sense out of you. Then people, rid of them, delete them, don't even have any banter with them.
Well, I have been told in recent times that a radius line can be curved on a globe. That's exactly what I was told. A radius line can be curved on a globe. So you can have
a radius line has to be straight. A radius line is straight. It has to be level and straight.
That's
a radius line.
The whole point of it. Yeah. The actual reason for it existing is that it's a straight line. It can't be anything but straight. Otherwise, you don't know what size the circle is. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
But then it doesn't exist if it can be curved, because first of all, the definition of radius is a straight line, right? Like, so how the hell are you going to say that it can be curved? Wasn't it already measured to not be curved? How did something that was measured to not be, or calculated to not be curved now can be considered curved?
Yeah, when do we make the distinction?
It's impossible, and it's psychopathic, and we shouldn't even take them. As soon as he says anything like that, up the door. You've gone. Go away. Simple as that.
People say, how come you hang around inside your echo chamber? I was talking to Bev recently and the lads over on Try Thinking, and they're being asked the same thing. Are you like hanging in your echo chamber? Yeah, we do. Because what's the alternative?
Because
you guys sound crazy. Yeah. What's the alternative? That's speaking about things that matter. You know what I mean? Speaking about craziness. That's the alternative.
You mean that the slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena room isn't appealing?
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys could just get over the flat plane, I could teach you to live on a sphere.
Can you get that sphere without the flat plane, though?
Don't get hung up on a flat plane, John.
But that's exactly what you do. Literally, that's what the ball does. It gets hung up on a flat plane, like a dingleberry.
It's
Matthew
below the
learned was in
dingleberry is
Cheetos
definitely
yesterday.
below.
With that
Say again, Eli?
I thought one deck was going to say something. Yeah, no.
I was
Dang,
just
what
going
was I
to.
going to say?
I've got to
Man,
go in a minute. But what I was going to say to you, something came into my mind about. I think it was the horizon. Yeah, it's only. I've got to go in a minute, guys. I'm just going to read a couple of words. It's called "All Eyes on Me."
Is that Tupac? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, it was a two-part track, but now it's the one Dex poem. It's all eyes on me as far as I can see. Horizon, yes, that's me. Horizon, as far as you can see. Horus on, what eyes on? Horizon, that's me. All eyes on me, as far as we can see. Level, horizontal skyline, top of the sea. Yes, horizon, that's me, as far as one can see. A distant, apparent lifeline, put it beautifully, for all the lost sailors who have ever referred to me. Horizon, that's me, as far as the eye can see. The end.
That was
Very nice one,
beautiful,
Dex.
man. Beautiful.
Nice.
Amazing, man. Yeah.
To know
That was
about
good stuff.
Where's the glow poetry?
FPD poetry night. Word up.
Hey, that was
If I
good
did a
stuff,
channel,
and
that
actually,
might be my
I reckon you could put some beats behind that, Elijah. Like it's all eyes on me. we
well,
could
No, I would
rap
just
this
put
out, mate. I'm telling you.
I would just put ambient music track behind it with like, waves washing in and a couple of like, the like images like the Black Swan, like just different, like as an introduction to all of my videos with your with that playing your poem. That'd be cool.
well, one
Why
thing
don't
I want to point out is that you have you stated something really interesting about sailors. I've always questioned this when I've heard this conversation being brought up. There's people are like, oh, I could use, a sextant, and I know my position, but they're 7 miles off or 3 miles off. That to me is like, no, you don't know your position then. If you're 3 miles from where you're supposed to be, then that's not knowing your position. I've always just personally giggled when I've heard somebody say, oh, no, I know my distance. I know my position, even though it's off 5 miles. Then I don't know. For some reason, that's always fucking made me think like, that guy's a fucking moron.
well to tell you the truth,
It's
mate.
only on 5 miles if you do it wrong.
I know what you just
By the
Please
way.
I know what
cut
you just
down
said
on
there,
the
mate.
swearing.
I've never spoke to anybody. I've never spoke to a sailor about a distance and getting the bearings ever. I know how the sextant works and I know what's required.
Yeah, but you have to take into account that, like, they often get within, like, when they were using the sextants on boats all the time, they often will get within and closer than half a mile. Now, if you're traveling a ridiculous distance to get within half a mile using just the instrument itself, the marine sextant, and calculations, that's pretty good considering see, if you're moving on a boat, the problem is that the sea starts deciding what direction you're going. So sometimes, like, you could calculate it absolutely perfectly, but then you turn up at where you were meant to be and you're 3 miles out. But you're 3 miles out because the sea caused you to be 3 miles out. If you've ever spent any time on a boat, you'll understand this. Like, your calculations might be perfect, but the sea might decide something different between where you are and where you want to be. Right, and the sea will drag you in different directions. So there's no way around it. To be within half a mile of your destination, if you're traveling at a big distance on the sea, is I like to get a lot closer than half a mile. They have. That's very, very good. So to say they know their position, they know their whereabouts. You know what I mean? But they might know their exact position at that exact time, but they could be 2 miles out, a mile, 3 miles even, depending on the weather conditions they have to deal with on the way.
I'm sorry. I hear what you're saying, but I'm sorry, but that just sounds like just nonsense to me. And I'll tell you why. Because to say that I'm going to use a system that is known, 100% known, this is how I can know my spot, but it's never 100% known. Like, bro, like just take a step back from what you just said and realize that how the
No, you're not
nonsense of what
listening.
you
You
just
didn't
said.
listen to what I said. You might be able to point
No,
your
I
exact
did.
position.
I did.
No.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
You might be able to find your exact position at that exact time, right? But when you go try to get to where you want to get there, you end up being 3 miles out, due to sloppy calculations, but sometimes due to the sea itself, stopping you from getting to where you want to be, making you believe that you're this close when you're actually not that close. But at the time when you do your calculations, you might be spot on exactly. Your latitude and longitude coordinates might be actually absolutely spot on. But when you get to where you want to get there, it's changed.
Is this why Christopher Columbus thought he was landing on India, landed on America? Come
Well,
on,
no,
man.
I wouldn't believe any stories to do with Christopher Columbus.
Probably
Fucking
not.
nonsense, bro.
But basically what he's saying is like, if you use a sextant to travel like hundreds of miles and you get within half a mile, damn, how's that bullshit? I don't get it.
No. But that's not, okay. Half mile, great. That's never what it is. I've always heard people say, people that come on here.
That's usually that's usually what it is. Like most people are lazy. Like if you like, I've pointed people out to the Practical Navigator channel. I think that's what it's called. And basically, what most people will do is not account for refraction. That's what most people will do, just for being lazy. And without doing any of that, accounting for this refraction, then they'll be out 3 miles. But if they do it correctly, they'll be pretty damn close.
In Discord, I've only heard the closest from anybody that's ever used a sextant and direction and they're boating and they're actually like real world experience doing it. The closest is 3 miles. The furthest I've heard is 7 miles. But
I'm telling you now. There's not a number of people. Excuse me. I'm just going to tell you now, mate. There's not a load of people in Discord with sextants, mate. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah, I want to say there's maybe like only 4 people I've ever heard that even like use that because they're
well, you might have heard
actual
it.
boating people. Like they actually.
All these ballers have suddenly got sextants till FED started talking about the flat Earth elevation angle. They're all sailors now, and they've all got dinghies. They're all out navigating, and don't believe it, mate. They're all lying. Yeah, it's a load of bullshit.
That too.
Yeah.
I do believe that there's a lot of bullshit.
These people are sailors. I'm not hanging around the Discord.
They're in the ocean, man. That good satellite service, baby.
Yeah, the Ocean Net. They're on the Ocean Net service.
That's a whole nother story.
I've got a guy I have a bit of banter with. He's on Instagram. He's like a Zanuck and Ruiz type of guy, and now he's a sailor and he's a pilot. I know for a fact his job is cleaning swimming pools out.
What's his job on deck?
He cleans swimming pools. I know he cleans swimming pools, which is not a problem. That's his job. But he tells everybody, and only since you guys have brought this sextant up, now he's got a sextant. He's been out on his dinghy navigating for years. No, he's never brought the sextant up before you guys did, and FED did. Nobody. That wasn't never a proof of a globe. So all of a sudden, sextant proves the globe. Well, why didn't you bring it up 7 years ago then? Because they didn't do that, did they? Until they knew there was.
All the celestial navigators came out. The sextant experts came out as soon as we started talking about it. It's great. They're talking about us. It's time to clock in, guys. What the hell?
They have the cheek to start saying that we are calling ourselves the expert navigators, when it's them that have become navigators overnight. We literally learned it. Whatever we learned, and then we spoke about what we learned. But they, overnight, within the space of 2 days, suddenly there was globe navigators everywhere.
Oh, they're popping up out of the woodwork, mate. They're everywhere now. These ballers all got sextants in the case. They've all got everything. That's all they do now. They go out on the boats navigating. That's all they've been doing for years. But they've only just brought it up since FED have brought it up.
Yeah, but they like to throw in what they want to do is throw in terms like Greenwich hour angle and all these things. They just like want to bombard somebody with a load of jargon, right? Well, if you put that person out on the ocean with a dinghy, well, dinghy be really dangerous out in the ocean in the middle of nowhere, but in some boat with a sextant, and gave them an nautical almanac, gave them the chronometer, everything they need, right? And say, now you're lost, find where you are, right? Gave them all the charts, everything, find where you are. What are they going to do? They're going to start drinking seawater. That's where they'll end up at.
The thing
I
is,
guarantee
Brian, the thing is, Brian, I couldn't do it. I haven't got a clue. But I do know what a sextant is designed to do, and I do know what an elevation angle is, and I do know what two straight lines are, and I do know relationship between the GP on the visible horizon, the observer. There's a connection. It's the surface of the sea level. And now, when you tie all that together, it's obvious what's going on. You don't have to be, pardon the pun, a rocket scientist. It's just simple. You know what I mean? It's just there. I don't navigate. I won't have a clue, but I know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we don't claim, none of us claim to be expert navigators. We speak about the process and certain elements of the process that can't be ignored, that prove it can't be done on a globe. We're not speaking about whether you can actually go out and be given a sextant and everything else and be put in a position where you're lost at sea and you can find your way. Whatever knowledge I have, I don't know if I could find my way out of being lost at sea with it. I don't know. I could try, but that doesn't mean that I won't require a horizontal baseline. Do you know what I mean? Same thing for airplanes. I don't know if I could fly an airplane. I could if I was given all the training. I could like anyone. But I know how airplanes fly, the basics of how they fly, what they have to do, what they don't do, what they can do, what they can't do, what the aeronautics account for, what it doesn't account for. I know all those things, but that doesn't mean I'm a pilot. That I can be given the responsibility to get into an airplane, take off, and land somewhere else. That's a different thing. That's an operation. That's the operation of the thing. But the operation of the thing doesn't. Well,
but I'm just saying, and that's where you can see. That's where this is an obvious thing. What's happening? No, none of us flat earthers are saying we're expert navigators. None of us have claimed it. All the globetards are, the anti-flat earthers. They're all now expert navigators. We're not saying we are. Me too. Just know how it works. You know the principles behind an elevation angle. We know what's being used. We know about radius. We know about circles of equal elevation. Just common sense, understanding.
It used to be they all used to be surveyors, and that changed up to now they're all celestial navigators. It's great.
Well, I read a comment on
They've gone
Nathan's
back
video.
to the stars.
Yeah, I read a comment on Nathan's video from yesterday, his live show yesterday, and someone saying, "Oh, this is just a panel of people who are all expert surveyors, pilots, sailors, navigators, blah blah blah, scientists." So this set of rubbish. It's like none of us has made any of those claims. Now Adam can make claims because of his career. QE can make claims. Dr. John D. Yeah, people can make claims as far as a career goes. But none of us are making claims to be all those things. We're just pointing out we're just pointing out facts within those disciplines that support our argument of what we do claim is that we're flat earthers. That is our claim. And that's the one they don't want to address. You know what I mean? They're not addressing that we're claiming to be flat earthers. They're trying to say we think we're this, we think we're that. No, we know we're flat earthers. There's a difference.
Hey, Eli, I'll get you some get some beats together, mate. I'll read this out and then loop it over some tracks or beats. We'll get the Horizon All Eyes on Me 2-pack remix going, mate.
Sure, man. I'm down.
For once, everyone's not asking chocolate to make it into a rap song. Every time someone says that or any song comes up, chocolate, turn it into a rap song. It's like that. That's not why I like. Yeah.
That's all right. Eli got more fire bars, so I'm good with it.
What's it like over there? Is it still we've got the grime over here? Is that over in the States, the grime?
I guess so. They call it drill now, but if I'm thinking, it sounds exactly. Yeah, grime must be drill rap, and then we're in that era right now.
I mean, obviously the hip hop's always been over in the States first of all, but I think over in the UK, especially Manchester and London, we got the grime scene hit, and it's just a different style of rap and hip. You know, it's just a different style of rhyming, pretty raw, street-wise type of stuff. It's good. Some of it. Sorry to go off the topic.
You should ask QE to drop some bars. That would be pretty fun. Because QE loves rap.
He's always sharing.
Let me ask you guys a question. Let me ask you guys a question. Because I got two things I'm thinking about. One, that the clouds prove the Earth is not a globe, and what's the other one? Well, actually, the second one is a question. It's like if the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light, and we're attached to that universal fabric, because they don't like to know they're not actually traveling at that speed. Like, whoa, we're attached to the universal fabric that's expanding faster than the speed of light. Why is it that we can see the stars then? If it takes X amount of light years to travel, which would be slower, it damn sure wouldn't be faster than the speed of light that light's traveling now, would it? Does that make sense? Like what I'm asking?
Oh, say it again, Eli. I'm not catching on to what you're saying. Speed of light thing is like speed of light that doesn't exist.
So the universe is supposedly expanding faster than the speed of light. Now, okay,
well, that's a contradiction.
Then yeah, but also, like, then what are we doing looking at this traveling light that's receding away from us fast? We're receding away from it faster than the speed of light. How are we seeing it? How's it reaching us?
I don't know, but it's like I know what you're on about and all this crap you talk about. But if someone's stating that the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light, how have they proven that in the first place? How have they come to that conclusion?
No, but I actually, one day, you're correct. I'm not saying that's not a good question, but I understand Eli's question. If we're seeing this light in the sky, and we're supposed to be seeing the light because the light from this star or whatever in the heliocentric model is coming to us at the speed of light, because light can't, within the heliocentric model, light can only travel at their claimed speed of light, which is 671 million miles per hour. But if the universe is expanding at a rate faster than that, then how is that light reaching us? Is that what you're stating, Eli?
The stars aren't.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's just the parameters of the supposed universe are expanding at that rate.
Which we're attached to.
So that the light that's heading to the edge has somewhere to go. The light sources themselves aren't
Did you hear?
leaving you at that.
Did you hear the beginning? Did you hear the beginning of what I said?
Yeah, that's why I'm addressing.
Yeah, but I said it's not like the light. I said exactly what you just said.
When it's not
But it's
relevant.
not. It's no. I said they'll say that it's not specifically, these objects moving at a speed, but these objects are attached to the fabric of the universe that's supposedly expanding.
Yeah.
So in my
Expanding,
mind,
not
same
stretching.
difference.
No, expanding, not stretching. So the interspatial distances aren't stretching. The parameters, the edge is expanding.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at when we're looking at the cosmic microwave background, the beginning of time.
No,
How is
that's not what
that?
you're looking at at all. That's not
You're
what
looking at
That's not.
no, you're not. You're looking at the oceans. Also, what's it expanding into?
I know, but forget it. Never mind.
A
Okay.
never ending of nothingness.
Also, the nothingness of empty space expands into the nothingness of nothingness.
What do you mean it's not stretching, it's expanding? I don't get it.
The volume is expanding. There's still nothing in the volume that is expanding, though.
We're a part of the volume.
Expanding space is the volume that is available that is expanding.
That's the way they explain it, Eli. It's really stupid. I read through it a couple times and I went and cleaned the bathroom.
Well, if the volume is expanding, but the amount of material within the volume, that means that the vacuum literally would be growing stronger over time. Hmm?
He's not talking about that. Eli has a problem with what Adam said. Adam is just repeating what the current dogma, I don't even want to call it dogma, the current speculation is. It's quite disturbing. Try it again, Adam.
No, it's they say I'm not making a claim. I'm just stating what they say. I assume that's needed for some mathematical balance somewhere. It's a consequence of something else that holds it together mathematically. But that cosmic background is that light that may or wherever that star is, where you're seeing it, it isn't now. Is that what you say?
Is the distance between any point A and point B expanding? Because if not, then what Arwen said is right.
No, according to them, no.
So then the vacuum is getting stronger.
Yep. But it doesn't matter because gravity, blah, whatever, it'll accommodate, or dark matter or something. Just whatever. It works.
That is dumb as hell. So we're in an expanding space in which like all of the orbits of things and everything is just like stuck in this one position. This stationary position. Because it's not expanding with the expand. Forget it.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm gonna go clean the bathroom. You're right.
No, you're talking about galaxy drift. That's happening apparently, but that's a separate rate to what's necessary for the expansion, that expansion claim of the confines of the universe.
I mean, all this.
When would galaxies not be
psychopathic.
moving faster than the speed of light? I don't get it. I don't.
Galaxies are just little things within the volume, right? The Milky Way is not the galaxy.
It was all together, and then it expanded. Now we have all this space in between stuff, but we're saying that space isn't expanding.
No.
What the hell?
No. So you missed that. No. Shortly after the Big Bang, you've got superinflation, which deposits stuff with the big gaps to then allow the natural drift that I was talking about in terms of galaxies as well. But the dissipation bit, you have to have superinflation, I think it's called, first, to get the mass distributed across the universe. I think that's right.
Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense.
What's super? So
It's
okay.
like-
Here's the
It's the thing that makes the magic work.
Well, let's take it in steps so that people like me understand. So, okay, so you have the expansion of the universe. That would be us and everything inside what we can see. It began at a singular point, somewhere.
They got the Big Bang.
Coincidentally, that isn't the middle. There is no middle. Also, for some,
Yes, there
I
is.
don't know any.
The
They
galactic
claim there's
middle
no
point.
middle. Nah, they say there's no middle. There's no middle.
The pillars
There
of
technically is the background radiation thingy and all that revealed that there is.
No, sometimes they say there is no middle. Other times they do say there's a center. Just depends on which day.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there is okay, no, okay, but okay, all right. So okay, it was expanded, right? Now there's nothing in the way to stop this expansion.
What are
So it
you
would
talking
take
about expanding here?
So it would take energy.
What
Are
causes
we talking
expansion?
about the expansion?
We're post Big Bang, okay?
Right.
Like that's what I mean by
Are
expansion.
you talking about volumetric expansion or material expansion?
that's what I'm.
How is it? What? How is it set? Okay, so when the Big Bang happened, space expanded, but the marble didn't. Like, or it did with the space. Like, I don't. Which one is it? Were the things, the materials inside of this one volume that apparently is forget about the size. But this everything we see, what I'm standing on, what we're breathing, all of this is supposedly comes from an origin. One point that I guess some people say is the center, right?
That's the origin of matter.
It hasn't even
space
happened yet.
expanded.
It hasn't even happened yet.
So there was no space in between any of this stuff.
Well,
But there's space now. So you asked me, what do I mean by expansion? That's what I'm talking about.
No,
So
well,
then you said, well,
Eli, slow down, stay on that.
Holy
point.
shit, Eli! Take a break.
I'm trying to get him to slow down because all he said was it's this factor, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
You've half addressed the point that me and Arwin both raised. So let's just stick with that point. What are we talking about? The expansion of matter within the universe, or the expansion of the universe?
How are they separate? Was my second.
Right, so when I went back to that superinflation, this is just the matter. We're not talking about the space in which the matter will expand in. We were talking about the way in which the matter is distributed universally first and then drifts. But there's a strange distribution first that isn't from a standard first drift. It's, like I said, superinflation. It kind of distributes, and then you've got all your galaxies, et cetera, doing what they do over time. That's matter. But if we're talking about the confines of the universe, I don't actually know him. I'd have to go to QE whether or not the expansion of the universe per se is even necessary at the Big Bang. It could still be. I don't know how that fits in. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Can I ask this real
Would
quick?
have to expand, right? But there's a philosophical question, whether that will stop into an infinite nothingness where you don't see anything anymore, it's too far away, or whether it's gonna stop and then return to a crunch position, like an engine.
Yeah.
No, just stick with.
Okay. There's the
philosophical.
volume there's a volume that's separated from the matter. I'm trying to understand why. Okay. So you got one. What do we call it? An atom? Like what do we call the thing that wasn't all of these individual things?
The singularity.
Okay, that was one mass, was it?
It wasn't mass, it was a singularity. I mean, it was beyond matter. Matter did not have the conditions to form yet.
Oh, okay. So
it had to unpack. It had to have volume in order to manifest, because in that singular point, it cannot be matter.
What?
Well,
Rewind. rewind. Yeah, I wish like, okay, fine, John, you can go too. I mean, because this, I'm getting more confused, and more people are talking, and I'm like,
Well, I think you got it right there, where the event, the point in space time, the things that they say is a wave, right? It kind of debunks itself as the more you read into it. So that's probably what you're getting confused by. They keep debunking themselves, and then they assert it as fact again.
well, Arwen just told me that the singularity. No, I don't want to straw man you by saying what I heard that you said was the singularity didn't contain, because you're saying it did contain
It wasn't
all
matter.
that.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
It can't be. Matter
whoa,
cannot be
a
in that
space.
state, in that compactness, right? It had to have volume in order to actually be able to, to end up becoming matter, right? It needed volume. It cannot be matter if it's all compacted, all of that energy, all of that potential within that singular point. It cannot be matter
So,
within it.
so
Right.
the
So
singularity. So the singularity is non-manifest. Basically, is what you're telling me. Like that, the volume doesn't exist because that's
right,
zero.
no,
So
let
there's
me,
actually no.
no. The laws of physics, as we understand them at this point, don't apply. They also don't apply at the point of superinflation. These are the bits they can't work out with physics, how you get the distribution. So none of the laws of physics that they're going to use apply at these points.
Y'all aren't answering what I need. Like what I need, because I'm trying to figure out how the volume. I'm trying to figure out how the cup expands without the water, fam. And y'all are telling me, well, stop thinking like that and just take it one thing at a time. And I'm like, okay, why though? What's the justification that I need to think that way? Because I'm trying to figure out what a singularity is. Then Arwen is like, because I'm like, okay, the singularity is basically like a marble. Even though I know I've heard you guys say actually there was zero volume, so technically there was nothing. But I mean, they make it sound like to people that there was like this one body, and then it exploded, and all of that stuff, including space itself, the fabric of space, which is not a thing, but whatever, like expanded faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you separate.
But you're
forgetting
overlooking the
all
singularity
of the
part.
time as well. It's not just space, it's not just matter, it's time as well. All of that.
Okay. All right. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
because if it's
okay,
all
time as
compacted
well.
if it's all compacted into a singular point, then you have the maximum gravity potential possible, which means time stands still.
But you have to have matter to have the gravity on,
This
right?
is sending me
But you just
insane,
said
guys.
that the
Guys,
matter wasn't
guys,
there. Either the matter was
sorry.
there to split up and spread,
You're sending
or it
me
wasn't
insane.
there.
Eli,
Okay, so
please,
if it is there, if what it is actual material.
No, it's not.
No,
it's all a lie.
Yeah, forget it. I swear to God, forget it. Just,
well,
you're
let's
right.
ask.
This is
I
not
don't,
like a cell procreating itself, right? This
Well, let's
is
ask an astronomer.
singularity.
Well, let's ask an astronomer. He was getting pretty upset about the balloon analogy. If you guys ever seen that analogy before, it's a train wreck. So the astronomer states, and I quote, "The analogy for the universe's expansion, which I prefer, is the dough and raisins analogy, which has been around at least since Martin Gardner's 1962 book, Relativity for the Million. In this analogy, we picture the universe as a giant blob of dough, which is placed in an oven and begins to expand. Embedded throughout the dough are a bunch of raisins, each of which represents a galaxy, including one of our galaxy, Milky Way. As the dough expands, the distances within it all stretch proportionally, and the raisins move away from each other in all three directions. It turns out
Go ahead.
It turns out that this analogy corresponds to what we see when we observe the motion of faraway galaxies in our universe. They appear to be moving away from us in all directions equally, with no preferred direction for the expansion." End of citation.
So my question fucking stands. If the distance is being increased faster than the speed of light, how is the light from the beginning of the time reaching us then?
Not.
Of course it's not.
It is.
That's like.
No, because that's the shining moment of that first microsecond, right? And it just has such a vast distance that
you know what light years
the
are?
speed of light.
You know how many?
The speed of light will be equal to the amount of space it will be distancing itself because of the expansion, and that's why you just see it eternally.
Hey, Arwen, listen to what I'm asking. Okay, so like the raisins, when the space expands, the distance between these things increase. That being the case, if I'm on this galaxy, I'm looking at another galaxy, and I already know, not know, but I've been told that the light from the sun takes 8 minutes to get to the Earth. And I know that that galaxy is expanding faster than the speed of light. Why can't I see it?
But it isn't in relation to you, it is proportional to the entire galactic size. So the speed of light is just a saying to give a scale to it, to be able to imagine the entire process, which is way over top, right? You can't compare it to the sun or another star.
I don't get, you're not addressing what I'm asking.
Or can I give you an answer in rhetoric? It would be that you're not seeing where the galaxy is, you're seeing where it was millions of years ago.
Except we can't because we're moving away from it consistently.
No, you're not moving away. You're all moving
distance is increasing.
No.
Yeah, relative.
The only galaxies Eli, just let somebody else speak for a minute.
Eli.
Did John not? Did you not? Did the citation not?
You're just not letting anybody address the points, the multiple points you're making, dude.
I'm making one point.
And your mic
Right, you're not. Are you reverbing?
The question is, did the citation not say the galaxies are analogous to
Eli, right, Eli, you've got verbal diarrhea, your mic's awful, people are trying to tell you that, but you still carry on, so we've just got garbled nonsense we can't understand now. Yeah, that's a cue for someone to actually address his point rather than leave us.
Okay, so if we address the first point, which was the current bun theology, those things aren't necessarily, they're moving away relative at whatever speed. And I didn't hear John describe that speed as the speed of light within the current bun theory, but he said it appears like they're moving away from each other relatively. Now, that's per galaxy, first of all. The galaxies aren't necessarily spreading like that at the speed of light, otherwise, yeah. Now, John then says, because if you take that into account, then the only ones you should be seeing are the ones that are moving in opposite directions to each other. Those wouldn't be visible to your eyes. You may be correct there. So there may be more.
What I'm talking. That's literally what I'm talking.
Just let somebody else speak, Eli.
Eli, this is the second time I've had to interject. What the hell? We can hardly hear what you're saying. Now you're doing it to me. Now you're doing it to me. Talking straight through the middle of me telling you off for talking through people. So you're going to do it to me? Just pop yourself on mute and let him get to the end of his explanation, please. Second time.
I've just got one last sentence, and that was to do with what Refracted said. So the reality is, if everything is moving, but the positions are relative and there is a difference, that the light may reach you as you go on your collision. You may be seeing things in different positions from different points of time. That would appear to be the way to resolve their claim of what the heavens are doing with all these other problems. So I don't see a major problem in not being able to see the other galaxies, except, like I said, there may be some that you can't see because your relative positions are juxtaposed to each other, as opposed to just on different paths where the light eventually does reach you. That makes sense.
So when I said we're in this galaxy looking at another galaxy expand, right? Right? Like that's what I was talking about for after. Now you're saying there are galaxies we can't see. Because then there's no point in me saying what I'm saying there. Because they're basically telling me, oh, no, there are galaxies you can't see. That's what I'm asking about. If I'm looking at other galaxies, how can I see them if they're supposed if the space that they're sitting in is expanding, therefore increasing the distance between us and that galaxy. That expansion is supposed to be faster than the speed of light. I'm just repeating myself, and I'm just repeating myself. I don't know. I'm Eli.
I understand what
Bloody hell, Eli!
Eli's trying to say.
Oh my God! You finished your statement, and rather than just stopping talking, you've then, for the next 5 seconds, gone. I'm just repeating myself. I'm kind of repeating myself. Nobody's getting a chance to talk.
Yeah, they did. Nobody was saying anything.
Oh my God!
That was a question.
Well, that's
Nobody's saying anything. We were.
well, that's the thing. They're claimed to be. I think speeding up is one of the ways they describe it, like from the initial Big Bang. So, I mean, it's all like in Narnia anyway. They can say anything they want to justify whatever they want whenever they want to. You know, they can change it. Their continuity is fluid at best.
Let me see if I can simplify around about what Eli is trying to say. How can they make the observation that the universe is expanding at a rate greater than the speed of light within the heliocentric model, when the speed of light has a limit within that model, so they wouldn't be able to observe it? You couldn't observe it because it can't be observed within your model. Is that what you're trying to say, Eli? You want to speak now?
It has been addressed. So
Yeah, that's what's wrong with stuff, I guess. Yeah,
Adam did address that. Sorry.
But it couldn't be addressed, Darwin, because
Adam did address it.
within the model. Yeah, but that means but you just can't see it. Means there is no there's no observation then. That's
But there wasn't. There wasn't. It was an argumentation based on the thing that could be seen. It's like, oh, there must be more, so much more. Well, we can't see it. Why is that? Well, because that part is actually in relation to us, like expanding beyond the speed of light. So we just can't see it. We can only see the things that are not going that fast in relation to us.
So the curve is always there past your horizon. Do you know what I mean? The curve is always there past your horizon. It's like, it's this, where we can't see, we're making up a story about where we can't observe.
It's
Basically
the
what they're
speed of
saying,
light horizon.
hang on, please. Basically what they're stating is that we can only see so much, but there has to be more for our belief to stay alive.
There's no, look, Adam said, well, we would have to be across. And I mean, I just don't like, if there's a middle point and everything is expanding from that, even if I was, I don't know, if I was next to a galaxy and the universe was expanding faster than the speed of light, well,
Bro, your mic
I'll leave it
is...
at that.
Bro, you need to do something about that mic. I can barely make out what you're saying at this point.
Is he being kidnapped?
It's like you got your mic in your pocket.
Yeah, it's painful, Eli.
That's the only reason you're on their side, because you just want me to shut up, Nathan. My mic is bad. I know.
Finally, we can hear you again.
Yeah, say what you were saying, Elijah.
Well, now I have like a cement truck, like, so it's like, screw me. So if we're saying that there are galaxies, like, so then what is the? Okay, so I guess I have a misunderstanding then. What is the microwave background radiation that we're looking at? Is it what in what position is that? Next to us? Like, I don't. Where is that?
That's everything within our sight that is like at this equilibrium point, not beyond the speed of light. It's everything that's on the edge, right? It's the speed of light horizon, you could say.
Actually, it's not. Actually, it's the oceans, the not the Planck satellite. What's the Kobe Fierce receptors getting overwhelmed by the microwave emission of the oceans?
Are you serious?
I'm serious as a heart attack. Go onto my channel, and I think it's titled, I can't remember the title, CMB debunked or some shit like that. Redshift CMB. Just go on there on the playlist. You'll find it. It's in there somewhere.
Okay. God, it's every time I think that, oh, but there's logical sense in it. And then it turns out, no, wait, I made that logical sense up. Their actual story was complete horseshit. I'm just trying to keep it cohesive, but they won't let it. No, but basically, based on the speed of light, you know, that there is a maximum to how fast it can go, and then there would be a horizon to that if the galaxy was expanding and everything in it. And the things that are just moving too fast away from us beyond the speed of light would be invisible.
I think I have a way to kind of get you to view what I'm looking at. So since we're not talking about exact opposites moving away from each other, like take a pair of scissors and, like, you know, at the basically the base of the scissors, or where the scissor intersects, right at the bottom, like, and you begin to open it up, like, it's not necessarily opposites, but it's next to each other. Well, if all of the space is expanding faster than the speed of light, then wouldn't even those 2 points close together at the bottom of the scissors, that if you open it up, they're moving away from each other, but not as fast as, say, the end of the scissors, wouldn't that distance increase still be faster than the speed of light, or am I wrong about that?
I'm not sure if I understand your analogy. Could you repeat that?
Well, instead of like two people, like, you know, just walking away from each other, picture two people like slightly like they start off walking parallel, and then one just like kind of like turns at like some small degree, and now they're walking away from each other. Now we're talking about the expansion of everything. So instead of them walking away from each other because it's not a speed, actually the field that they're both on is expanding faster than the speed of light. So isn't that distance between them still increasing faster than the speed of light, even though they're kind of on that trajectory? If you, I'll talk about it later. Probably draw up some stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's not that big a deal.
Right. Well, I don't know. My brain's not accepting it right now, so I don't know. Maybe somebody else can try
Well, it
that.
just seems the same paradigm, right? I mean, it basically comes down to whatever is claimed as soon within the paradigm of heliocentrism with the speed of light limit. Soon as light is, as soon as you are moving in relation to something else faster than the speed of light, you will just not see it. The light will simply not be able to reach you. That's it.
So if you're in a car traveling at the speed of light and you turn on your headlights, what happens?
Well, that's all. Oh, that's a funny question. It's all relative. Well, first off, if you actually go that speed, you would plasmify and disintegrate. So But let's just say there is some kind of a, what do you call it again? But they use a warp field, so you could do that, and you could actually move that kind of distance. Then what would happen is that everything in front of you would become incredibly bright. Everything behind you would become incredibly dark.
Prove it.
No, what would happen
No, it's
is
purely
you see your
theoretical.
headlights in your rear view mirror.
I think Chocolate's
You
right.
would
Everything
see,
to your
you would
side
see your
would be illuminated.
headlights in your rear view mirror.
Yes, I
No,
think
but
that's correct.
no, because it's relative. So if you're moving at the speed of light, the light is simply going to also be moving at the speed of light in relation to you, because it's all relative. But it's not going to make that much of a difference just being twice the speed of light to anything out there. Right? It's
No,
always about the relation of a light trying to reach you, and how much speed there is between you and that thing. And if it moves faster than the speed of light, you don't see it.
Yeah, you'd never reach your headlights, and you would be moving at the same rate. So everything in front of you would be dark. Everything behind you would be dark. You'd never see.
No,
you'd
everything in
never be able
front
to
of
see
you
in
would
front
be
of you.
incredibly bright because you're moving
No,
at
it
the
wouldn't
speed of
be.
light.
How would it be bright if you're moving at the speed of light and you have your headlights on, you won't be able to see in front of you because you'll be where the headlights are shining.
You wouldn't need headlights because everything in front of you is going to be really bright because of you approaching it with the speed of light. Everything is super bright.
But you're not light. You're moving at the speed of light. You're not light.
That's what I was about to say. R would say in your light if you're moving at the speed of light, so everything would be bright.
In front
Well,
of you.
actually, you would be looking at static photons. That's what you'd be looking.
You'd be looking at dark.
Static photons. Get out of here.
In a weird, twisted sense, Arwen was right in one aspect of it. Oh, by the way, I put that video. It's Speed of Light in the CMB. I put that in the war room. It's when I was with Cathexis. That's an oldie.
I always wanted to know about the CMB. I just never looked into it, and I'm going to look at that video.
Shit, that was one of my first presentations I did. It has to be the first or second one I did. It's probably like 13 years old. Now, most of that information, I didn't, come up with it on my own. I did research on it and just put it together. Follow?
Yeah. You're not taking full credit for everything that's in there, is what you're saying.
No.
Intellectual credit.
A lot of it was Professor Robitaille. You know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. A future flat earther.
I don't know about that.
Well, he is already a flat earther.
He just
the
doesn't
speed
know
of
it.
flat. The speed of flat has not. He just doesn't. He hasn't caught up with the speed of flat yet.
I just can't, because those guys, what the heck is his name? Stephen. It's Robitaille and Steve. What the heck? Oh man. I'll remember it. But anyway, they talk a lot about space and second law of thermodynamics. And I find, but they're uber intelligent, but they just can't grasp the you can't have a vacuum existing without a container. It's stupid. I'm stupefied at that fact. I tried to tell them one day. I got on one of their shows in the chat and wrote it out. It's a real simple statement, and I figured if they read it, they'd get it, but they didn't.
They can't fix it, Kiwi. They just can't fix it. Even as Baldwin, I just don't address it because except for gravity, and then give you like an eternal spiral because I don't really know what it is, etc., etc. There is no answer to it within the heliocentric galaxy model. There's no answer to the second law of thermodynamics. You can't even bypass it, like with terrestrial refraction and the horizon, for example. You just can't address it. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, it can't be overcome.
What I said can't be overcome either. I can't wait for Nathan to end the show because you know I'm on fire.
Don't listen to Eli. Don't end the show. That's depressing.
I'm fiddling, man. I'm
'Cause
fiddling with
thinking-
buttons. As you can probably tell, I'm not interacting with you very much. I'm not even really listening to you, apart from when it gets irritating. So, Eli, the only reason I piped up wasn't because I was siding with anybody, was because you were getting irritating. Not for your own, not for having a non-valid point or anything, but just because the way your connection was and the way you wouldn't shut up. So, but I'm not really listening. I'm trying to figure out problems, or iron out creases, I should say.
No, I actually.
Because Neil's called Eli too.
Of course, Neil.
Are they using the same
No,
mic?
but Nathan, I knew what that was because I knew once people were saying my mic was shitty, I was like, Nathan's not too far behind. It's like he don't care what I'm talking about. Just shut up and let somebody else with a better mic talk.
Pretty much, I'm not, prejudiced against what you had to say because I wasn't even listening to it.
Right. I that's what I don't think what I'm saying is I don't know. I just don't get how, if everything is relative and like the bun cake or whatever it is that you put in the oven, literally not everything is in, this planet and that planet. I'm talking about galaxies. Like everything everywhere in another galaxy or whatever it would be called is moving away from each other at an equal relative distance.
Yes, and from you, right? So
I
the
know.
further away,
So then,
the faster it'll move.
So then, how am I wrong then?
Wrong at what?
You didn't account
Because
for gravity.
the distance being increased, that distance is increasing faster than the speed of light.
No,
But the light.
No, that's an overgeneralization. It's not all moving
my bad.
faster than the speed of light, because then you wouldn't see it. Then you
I
wouldn't
know,
see anything.
Yeah, but how are they
I know,
observing
but I'm not
this?
talking about all things. I'm not talking about all things. I just said it's not like I'm talking about us and then the next planet over, quote unquote.
So
I'm
also
talking
the
about
stars we see, which are very far away, allegedly, according to the heliocentric.
that's specifically what I'm talking about. Specifically, the stars
Well, they're not moving
that are
farther
trillions
away
of miles
than the
away.
speed of light, because then we wouldn't see them.
So they're not expanding equally like everything else?
No, they are, just not the speed. Not everything is just going at warp speed in relation to everything. That's not the situation.
I'm not saying everything, Sam. I'm not
these
saying
things
that.
we
You're
see,
saying
the
that.
big stars, the gigantic stars far away, well, they're not moving faster than the speed of light in relation to us, because otherwise we wouldn't see them.
That's a contradictory statement. I just said relative isn't everything, and I don't mean everything. I'm talking about galaxies and things like that. Whatever they say is a part of this expansion, like the raisins. Whatever fits that analogy. The two raisins, like our galaxy and another galaxy, I don't care where it is. If it's all relative, and relatively the distance is increased faster than the speed of light. Now I'll stop there.
No, it isn't. Stop repeating that.
I just said I'll stop there. So that's not okay. Because I know that the space is supposed to be expanding faster than the speed of light. But I guess I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, but not galactic volumetric.
I didn't say all.
Please, let me just make the statement and clarify it. The galactic volumetric border is expanding faster than the speed of light. Not everything within the volume of the galaxy is moving faster than the speed of light in relation to everything else. Okay?
He keeps answering a straw man for some reason. And it's getting
It's
annoying.
all a straw man. This entire freaking fictional
No,
setup.
you're straw manning my fictional setup.
No,
which
I'm
is their
not.
fictional
You
setup.
just keep inserting
are.
faster than the speed of light where it doesn't apply. Overgeneralization.
Okay, so was the bun cake not, because that's what John gave us. Was it a bun cake with raisins? Am I right Okay.
Yeah, but that
so-
fun cake
so-
isn't raising.
Fun cake.
Just it's not expanding at the speed of light.
Here we go again.
Okay, this is
Nathan,
what I
get ready.
don't know. This is what I don't know. I'm not fighting this point. If you're saying actually the space itself is not moving faster than the speed of light, then I don't have an argument. I just
It
thought
might
that
be.
that's what it was.
No.
And on that repetitive note, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Gilded and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.